Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. Hopefully it's working. I'm just checking here. Pop out activity feed. Yargenchi is here, I believe. I'm just trying to get everything functioning here. I'm sorry. 1 second here. I am out of it, dude. Oh my God. I'm just completely out of it. Completely out of it. Trying to move my chats over. Okay, good. Chats are in the process of being moved currently. All right, chats have been moved. I'm okay. I'm just out of it. I feel like I got hit by a train. It happens sometimes in the mornings, you know? What the fuck is going on with YouTube? It says it's public. It says I'm live. But I'm not seeing anybody in the chat. Okay, there we go. We're good. We're good. My background changes on my Windows computer, you know, for some reason. It just changes every time it restarts or whatever. And now it's a really fat robin. I'm sorry, fat cardinal. A big, fat, red cardinal. Pretty funny. I want to watch this Jehovah's Witness thing. I'm an atheist. I spent 3 days at a Jehovah's Witness convention. It seemed pretty interesting to me. It's about 5 months old. I didn't even realize that this came out. Also, I am making big strides in my text-to-speech system here. Very proud of it. Going really well. And for some reason, Aesop's Fables did not compile. Or didn't reassemble, I mean. I don't know why that failed. But I'm almost done with Lying About Hitler, which I've read. It's a really good book. I'll let that go. Basically, check this out. I rewrote Aesop's Fables to be more, more, to make more sense for like a young kid, for like a third grader. I wrote it to make more sense for a third grader. And I went through some of it, and it's really top tier. I had no idea Aesop's Fables were the source of some of this. If you don't know Aesop's Fables, it's basically like short stories, like a paragraph long per story, that teach a moral lesson, and they're like 3,000 years old, some of them. They're from like the Assyrian Empire and stuff. It's like very, very old shit. It's really cool. For example, this is one that I rewrote. Let me just read it. Hang on. I try to pull it up here. Studio, Aesop's Fables, audiobook, review. Oh, shoot. I don't have this one. Hang on. Edit source. Cleaned EPUB. Open. All right, here's an example. Let me zoom in a bit here. The Wolf and the Lamb. A wolf met a lamb who'd wandered away from his flock. The wolf wanted to eat the lamb, but he didn't want to just attack him. He wanted to find a good reason that would make it seem okay. So the wolf said, "Last year you were really rude to me." The lamb replied sadly, "But I wasn't even born last year." Then the wolf said, "You eat grass in my field." "No, sir," said the lamb. "I've never eaten grass yet." The wolf tried again. "You drink water from my stream." "No," said the lamb. "I've never had water. I still only drink my mother's milk." The wolf grabbed the lamb and ate him up anyway. He said, "Well, I'm not going to stay hungry, even if you prove I'm wrong about everything." A mean person will always find an excuse to be mean. Actually, the last sentence there in the original Aesop's Fables is, "A tyrant will always find a pretext for his tyranny." And I think that's really interesting. I've heard that before, and I didn't realize it was from Aesop's Fables. 48 months. That is absolutely nuts. Thank you for being here, Miracle. I appreciate that. That's fucking awesome. All right. Well, let's listen to this Jehovah's Witness thing, shall we? I didn't mean to unpause. All right, there we are. There's this dude named Halcyon. Oh, sorry. There's a dude named Halcyon who went to a Jehovah's Witness convention. I just wanted to like listen to what he had to say about going to a Jehovah's Witness convention, considering I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness myself. Check this out. I'm going to jump ahead. He's got a bit he does here. Atheist Church Audit, Convention Edition.
Dear friends, esteemed colleagues, welcomed guests, thank you for being here today. My name is Jared, I'm an atheist, and this morning I am going to drive an hour and a half down south to spend the first of 3 days with my friends, the Jehovah's Witnesses. The JW convention is the biggest hubbubaloo that the JWs have all year long. I am still wildly ignorant about this group. I am still so curious and fascinated by them. Truthfully, one of my blind spots with this whole thing is that I've spoken to a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, but I haven't gotten to just be embedded in their community. And I am still trying to constantly remind myself that these people are humans and I want to understand them better. So as per usual, I have resisted the urge to watch any of the several, I'm sure they're excellent, videos from the big XJW channels on what is going on in the convention this year. So I'm going in blind, don't know what I'm walking into. So come with me for day 1 of 3 of the JW convention. Okay. All right. Day 1.
Dude, I used to treat this as like a mini vacation when I was little, you know? My parents would, it's usually like out of state, or it was commonly out of state when I was younger, when we lived in Connecticut. And we would get a hotel and we would go to this location, you know, near the convention center. There'd be a pool on site and everything. It was awesome, actually. I had a good time. I had to sit there for like 8 hours a day for 3 days straight. And I was bored to tears the vast majority of the time, but it was doable, you know? It wasn't so bad. And I know a lot of ex-JWs who feel the same, who feel that it was actually not awful, like going to conventions.
I bought this tie at Goodwill yesterday for $2. It came pre-tied because I forgot. I don't know how to tie a tie.
So
He bought a tie that was pre-tied. That's funny. Yeah, that's something you got to learn to do as a Jehovah's Witness. Tie a tie for sure.
morning, I pull up to this big ass convention center in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and have the first day of the 3-day convention. A convention is a big annual conference that gathers all Jehovah's Witnesses from all across America into these individual coliseums and stadiums that they rent out just for this once-a-year experience. So publishers, that's their jargon for believers, from all across the state, from different kingdom halls every which way, they come and they congregate at this big auditorium. Kind of the revolving schedule of every day of this conference is you watch a video, you sing some songs, you pray a prayer, you listen to a talk. And you just kind of repeat those 4 things over and over and over again. First and
Pretty much.
foremost, did I die? Of boredom. To my pleasant surprise, no, I survived it. Granted, was I Googling and scrolling on my phone half the time? Yes. Would that be a modern luxury that Jehovah's Witnesses didn't have even a few years ago? Probably.
Yeah, that's funny. You're not supposed to scroll on your phone. That looks really bad. I mean, people do. They pick up their phone every now and then. I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses do. But I did that once, not my phone, but something else. I think I was talking a lot to my friends or whatever, and we were sitting up in the bleachers, and this dude walks up to us after like the intermission, and he's like, I know you guys probably don't feel very spiritual right now or whatever, but you'll get there. Just keep working toward it and stuff. It was ridiculous. As a white JW, did you ever feel that there was some racial discrimination toward other JWs and minority? I did not feel that way, no. I would be willing to hear people out, but uniquely, I think Jehovah's Witnesses draw the line on insider and outsider rather than black and white. And I think that's the vast majority of cases. But maybe I just didn't experience it, and that's why. Like, most religions will do that, but I don't think Jehovah's Witnesses are like that. Anyway.
First things first, if you'll recall, I did this disfellowship thing like almost a year ago now. I tried to go and see what it would be like to try to interact with other Jehovah's Witnesses as a disfellowshipped person. It was kind of stupid though, even for the ones who did, sincerely think that I was disfellowshipped. Several people pointed out that it probably wasn't a very well-rounded or meaningful experience. The hard part about being disfellowshipped is what it does to your immediate relationships. It's not
totally true. Absolutely.
Not the fact that the general JW community won't talk to you, it's that your mother won't talk to you. So anyway, I've, at least attempted to see what things feel like as a disfellowshipped person. I've also been love bombed like crazy. Normally when I go into a Kingdom Hall, it's like I get swarmed by people. If I go to an average Baptist church or a Pentecostal church, I'm a new face and it's like, 3 or 4 people. Hey, how's it going? I can tell you're new because you're stupid and ugly and I haven't seen you before. But when I go to a Kingdom Hall and it's very obvious that I'm a newbie, I get easily 10 people, a dozen people, 20 people. Well, hey, bud, how's it going? You live around here, work around here? Wow, that is just fascinating. And it's a lot. Today, my goal was just to blend in. And I'm really happy to say it. I did a good job. The suit and tie thing. I looked the part. I even went and got my earring removed surgically.
I did that too. I removed my earring as well too. When I went and infiltrated their, what do you call it? Like their headquarters? Yeah, I infiltrated their headquarters. It was crazy.
Not surgically, but yeah, I had to get it removed. And it was kind of like refreshing to go and just have nobody say hello to you. I should mention this. Jake from Alt-Worldly, he's a homie, and he's been my man in the chair for this mission. Giving me some direction and guidance. He pointed out the one fatal flaw of my getup, and that was that I didn't have a name badge. They all had a name badge, which had their name, and then this year's convention, which is...
It's a good point. I wouldn't have even considered that. Shit, I would have had to sit there and think it through. Yeah, the name badge is a big fucking deal.
Pure worship. And I was like, oh, I didn't have that. Shoot. And so what he pointed out is that because I looked like a Jehovah's Witness, but didn't have the name tag, that potentially people could think that I'm disfellowshipped. So maybe this was actually like more of a disfellowshipping experiment. Long story short, nobody said hi to me. And I was okay with that.
Thank God.
Let's talk about the conference itself. First, there's a big old countdown timer. And then there's an intro video, and it's just tons and tons of diversity. There's people speaking other languages. There's,
I think people are probably like gonna know each other, and if they don't know you, then they're most likely not gonna say hi at these conventions. They'll strike up conversation if you're in the bathroom with them or something, but yeah.
Songs in other languages. They're showing Jehovah's Witnesses from all around the globe, across multiple different continents. And literally within the intro video, there is a scene of persecution. And then it has just some random Russian Jehovah's Witness being thrown into a cop car.
Yeah, well, Jehovah's Witnesses are being persecuted by Russia at this immediate moment. So that is true. That's happening. But they really lean into the persecution thing. Like, they want people to think that they're 2 minutes away from being persecuted. You can't be up here, kitty. You're so good, though. Oh, she's so good. She's such a good kitty, right? Look at this good kitty. Big scratchable belly. Go on. They want people to think that they're 2 minutes away from being jailed in the United States. That's part of the deal. That's what they're trying to convince everybody of. And it wreaks havoc on people's mental and emotional state.
this note of persecution and, feeling like an oppressed minority, the very first speaker gets up and he addresses the assembly and says something like, maybe it was difficult for you to come here today. Maybe you had to cancel work. Maybe you had to find a babysitter. Or maybe when you told people that you were coming to a JW convention, people mocked you and ridiculed you. Now me, when I came to a Jehovah's Witness convention, I got mocked and ridiculed.
Stop being a damn fool.
Yeah, man, even the people who like me, they were like, please don't, idiot. But I want to say that and at the same time stress that it does still hurt my heart that these people feel like they will be ridiculed and mocked and persecuted. I know
They really won't. People will pretty much just leave you the fuck alone and let you do your business. And this is a very Christian-controlled country. Like, Christian nationalists have completely taken it over. Okay, so it would surprise me if Jehovah's Witnesses were mocked or ridiculed or whatever. I seriously, deeply doubt it with everything in my heart. If they didn't just, if they just went about their day and ignored people and left them alone and didn't shove it in their face all the time, I doubt they would be mocked and or ridiculed.
that largely it is a fabrication. It is a narrative strung along by the governing body to retain its members. But at the individual level, I don't want my Jehovah's Witness friends to feel like I think that they're stupid for being a part of this, because I don't. I think that there are totally rational reasons why somebody joins a sect like this. And I will be the first person to say that this is an auditorium of largely smart and intelligent people that I'm not okay with anyone shitting on. All of the criticisms that I have about Jehovah's Witnesses are regarding their theology and regarding their structure, their hierarchical structure. But I don't have any beef with the average Jehovah's Witness, man. I know some of them, and they're wonderful. So a lot.
What about the average Jehovah's Witness woman? I noticed you didn't mention them.
The average Jehovah's Witness, man. I know some of them, and they're wonderful. So a lot happened today, but let's give credit where credit is due. The Jehovah's Witnesses have upped their cinematography game. I never thought it would happen, but
yeah, they built a whole media center actually not too long ago. I think it finished in 2025, maybe. And right when they finished building the media center, AI came out, and then they started using AI, so.
the JWs are given the chosen a run for their money. The new videos that they're pumping out, I don't know if it's a movie or a multi-part series or what, but it's called The Good News According to Jesus. And I have some issues with it, but I want to praise it first. The sets on this, the color grade, the editing is really good. When Satan tempts Jesus, I'm sure that like the ex-JW community is just like laughing hysterically at this.
This devil is the Timu version of the most generic version of the devil you've ever seen.
For me, I can appreciate, they probably can't make Satan as like grungy as they want him to because there's kids in the room, but I thought it was a cool enough depiction. And then when Satan takes Jesus and shows him the kingdoms of the earth and says, hey, if you bow down to me, I'll give you all this, that looked like Marvel level movie. I mean, it was really top tier. So it's very beautiful cinematography, but it's too damn polished, and it really irks me. Their entire Jesus movie is dripping with the new personality. And the
Dude, I should watch that. Their new Jesus thing. Sounds interesting.
new personality, for those of you who are outsiders, is essentially this vibe that you're supposed to put on and act as when you are a converted Jehovah's Witness. And all of the characters.
Yeah, this is literally like one of the qualities of a cult that you put on the new personality, that they try to create a new personality in you. It couldn't be more on the nose. They also call it the Christian personality, quote unquote.
Present in the Jesus movie are draped in this veneer, and the new personality is quintessentially clammy, awkward, and polite. And so it was especially jarring seeing John the Baptist depicted in the new personality. And it rubs me the wrong way so hard because John the Baptist is like one of my favorite characters in the Bible.
That's really interesting. Honestly, I don't know enough about John the Baptist to give a fuck about the guy. You know more than me about John the Baptist, I would be willing to bet. But yeah, they always portray Jehovah's Witnesses and everybody, honestly, as having this weird personality. It is definitely bizarre. I will give him that for sure.
Foremost, he's a white guy.
He's white.
And for like the most religiously diverse group in America, you'd think that they could find somebody who actually looks the part. But outside of that, it's not just that he's like a white guy, it's like, oh, this is Josh. Josh from suburbia. It's that guy. He's perfect teeth, perfect smile. He's just, calm, collected, composed, and sexy for Jesus. And when he talks very articulately and calmly and politely.
I'm a voice.
Yeah, dude, that is a dead ringer for the Christian or for the new personality. Absolutely. It's weird.
Of someone crying out in the wilderness. Make the way of Jehovah straight.
And it's like John the Baptist, as a figure in the Bible, is the one who's supposed to shake up religiosity.
And was also incapable of pronouncing the letter J, because the letter J did not exist until the 1500s, I believe. I forget exactly. Yeah, the 1400s.
He's supposed to shake up religious sensibilities. He's a big middle finger to King Herod. And so it's almost like comedic, like how put together this guy is. In the Gospels, he goes around in a, robe made of camel's hair and a leather belt. He's like going around and eating bugs and, sticking his hand in wild beehives. Like he's a fucking lunatic. And in the movie, they're
sticking his hand in wild beehives? I have not heard that one. That's wild, dude.
Depiction of him is just like he's almost like eating a Lunchable. Like he pulls the honey out of like a little clay jar and it's just like girl dinner.
That's funny, dude. I appreciate that.
And it just feels so comedically sanitized. And so it's shot well, but it's like the wrong genre for this. This story is gritty and they can't read it as that. They're not capable of it because it makes them uncomfortable that people in their Bible are unhinged and chaotic and manic. And for me, as somebody who, in case you can't tell, is deeply expressive and emotional, I cry a lot, I swear a lot. It just is so distasteful to me. The way that this character and Jesus are just whitewashed. And it speaks at this larger problem, which is the human struggle is frowned upon in Jehovah's Witnesses circles.
That is interesting. I have never thought about that before. The human struggle is frowned upon in Jehovah's Witness circles. I can see that for sure. Yeah. Okay. Crying, struggling, having difficulty is frowned upon. Absolutely. I agree for sure.
I think about the Psalms, people screaming and cursing at God and wrestling with this entire fucked up system is part of the Bible, and it's the part that I like. It's the part that I can sympathize with as an atheist. And then I think about, my heritage as growing up in the Christian metal scene, and there was an entire
Dude, is that Pantera? I think that's... Wait, no, that's not Pantera. Who is that Skillet?
Subgenre of songs in that scene where it was like, hey guys, just be honest. Just say, God, I'm doubting you right now. I'm struggling. I'm crying. I don't know if any of this crap is real anymore. And even then, more humanly, man, like what the hell do you do when your pastor fails and fucks up and...
He's listed as living on locusts and honey. Okay, I don't remember that for some reason from the Bible. John the Baptist. Interesting.
Has sex with his secretary,
Sorry, wait a minute. I missed it. We got to step back for that one. One more time.
Crap is real anymore. And even then, more humanly. Man, like what the hell do you do when your pastor fails and fucks up and has sex with his secretary, your evangelist friend kills himself? All of that was on the table in my spiritual upbringing.
Bro, did that happen in your church? That you went to a wild fucking church. I mean, I also went to a wild church, to be fair. Like, some crazy shit happened to me. Or to, in my congregation, it happened. And it was absolutely nuts. Like, there was a woman named Liz who, her husband basically was not a Jehovah's Witness. And he cheated on her. And, it's like, I think she joined after marrying him or whatever, And to get back at him, she cheated on him too, right back. Got disfellowshipped. Came to the Kingdom Hall for 6 months straight. Shunned in the corner. Got reinstated. But I guess it was worth it in her mind. That's wild. What? Why would I want to enable dictation? No, I don't want to enable fucking dictation. Hang on, let me check, because Bookforge just finished. Hold on, it's failing. I just gotta... Okay.
Allowed to vent. You were allowed to question. You were allowed to doubt. Now, the caveat there was you always had to spin it up at the end, but at least you were allowed to vocalize it. Whereas, like, here, it doesn't even feel like you can do that. All of it has to be swept under the rug. All of it has to be, hushed. And it drives me bananas.
Why would you say something like that? He's your dad. He's your dad. Okay? He's your dad. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Just like all of this.
Dude, King of the Hill is pretty top tier. I like King of the Hill. It's awesome.
It makes me grateful that I was never emotionally muzzled in the spiritual community that I grew up in. So let's talk about one of the other skits that was shown in the session. Across like an hour or two, they showed several snippets of this skit involving a family of 3. And the entire video series is about them interacting with this kind of naughty JW family. Like, they're not doing anything really explicitly bad. They're just posting on social media. They bought
Oh shit, I remember this. The dude in the background there is like an apostate in disguise or whatever.
And they got like excited about it, and that's supposed to be seen as like vain, which, fair enough. But then, of course, the big reveal at the end is actually they've been questioning Jehovah's organization. And if you know anything about the Jehovah's Witnesses, that is probably even worse than questioning God himself, is questioning the organization that God has instantiated. Credit to where credit is due with my Mormon homies. At least the Latter-day Saint community will engage.
Is it just me, or does that thing in the background look like a giant robot dick with 2 speakers as balls?
With counter apologists and apologists across the spectrum, and they'll, debate atheists and whoever the hell else. There's a conversation being had there, but Jehovah's Witnesses are not allowed to do that. And this video series re-emphasized that. So the faithful dad goes to the questioning dad and is like, why did you send me an email with an article questioning the Watchtower? And
Dude, I think, I covered this, and it was so fucking bizarre at the time. Like, they're doing some really weird shit right now. They do not like non-Jehovah's Witnesses having opinions.
I kid you not, in this skit, he basically says like, well, I think that you really need to talk to your elders. You need help.
Wow, that's what you feel. I need help.
To my never JW friends, imagine that like a Christian is reading The God Delusion, right? That was a common thing. I read The God Delusion as a Christian. Imagine that somebody in my congregation went up to me and was like, you sick fuck. And the big climax of this skit is like, he's in an argument with this guy and he just says, stop. There is one truth. And it's Jehovah's truth.
And it's so painfully cringy and stupid, dude. Oh my God.
He turns around, walks away, gets in his car and slams the door. And the guy's still like talking at him. He's like, why haven't you read this article? And like the big epic mic drop, the big like heroic moment is the main character leaving the conversation. And that's seen as brave and heroic and it kills me. And so I don't know if you'll
Yes, it is so goddamn cringy, dude. OMG.
recall the very first time that I went to a Kingdom Hall, they had a service, and in the service, in the Watchtower magazine, it showed pictures of what to do when you come across critical JW testimonials or pamphlets or emails or whatever. And what is the protocol when you come across any ideas that are contrary to your worldview? You tear them up, you shred them, you burn it, you walk away, slam the door, you get out of there. And it kills me that the governing body thinks the average members are that fickle. That was literally one of the lines. He says to the guy who's questioning and reading, JW critical articles, you need help.
You need to talk with your elders. because you need help. And if you don't speak to them, I will.
There is no other domain of knowledge that's that fickle and fragile and afraid of criticism. Can you
100%. It is so cringy, dude. Like, everything about it is so cringy. I remember these videos. I covered them when they came out.
imagine if like scientists in a lab pulled a shtick like that? Like you have two biologists in a lab and one of them's like, hey Jim, those tablets of acid that we gave those mice, apparently that might not be good for them according to the data. And the other guy's like, and this theme of running away from people with criticisms felt like reinforced by the hymn that they sung afterwards. The song is called Walking in Integrity, and one of the verses goes, I do not sit with wicked men of lies. I hate the company of those who truth despise. Jehovah, please don't take away my life with men who take delight in bribery and strife. So,
yes, not only do they have a persecution complex, they are also obviously about how evil everybody but they are, right?
Thrilled, not over the moon about any of this, but I do still want to end on a good note, want to end on a high note. The one consistent thing that I do have to, give kudos to Jehovah's Witnesses for is family. I saw like 3 sisters in front of me, all, really sincerely holding hands during the prayers.
Yeah, they are very good at building, building community, but they force you to be a part of the community. And if you leave, then you're fucked. Everything is gone permanently. It's not good. As I'm sure he knows. Sorry, hang on.
There was a husband and wife who were, hugging and holding each other during the prayer. And there was a toddler asleep on his mom during many of the talks. And it's like, I know that I see that in evangelical churches, but maybe not to the same degree. Now, there's also a question in my mind there of like, well, is that staged to keep up this presentation of...
I don't think it's staged. Nah, it's not staged. But a lot of these people are forced to be a part of this and they don't want to be anymore. So there's that.
Oh, we have a happy family and a healthy marriage. Or is it sincere? And then the next question is, does it matter? So, I don't know. I don't know at all. That was day 1. And we've got 2 more to go. Stay tuned.
That's interesting. They did the insane apostate shit on day 1. I didn't realize that. He's got an interesting, editing style. I appreciate it.
Okay. Day 2. Oh, God. Yesterday I had some flowers to give, right? If we were doing, flowers and thorns, that little game. Today, just a lot of thorns. I don't like being a negative Nancy like this. I like the nuance of exploring.
What about a Debbie Downer? Would you be okay with Debbie Downer rather than negative Nancy?
Cults and different religious groups and, trying to find the gray and the nuance. But today was just bad.
Even if it doesn't depict total nudity.
This feels wrong.
Yesterday, I praised the Jehovah's Witness team, the team over at Bethel, the team at the Watchtower for making, cool Jesus videos, right? Super dope in some respects, though clammy in others. Today, the drop in quality was pretty substantive. It didn't look any worse, but the quality, the content was pretty lame. The part that still kind of irks me is that John the Baptist is still just such a pushover. There's the scene where he's like, I'm the voice of one crying out in the wilderness. Oh, woo. But then the part that made me actually upset.
Ooh, woo, huh? Okay.
Was the part of Jesus going into the temple and flipping over the tables of the money changers. And he is such a pansy. They took the most badass story in the New Testament and they watered it down and made it so ineffective and impotent. Guys, stop. Stop turning my father's house into a den of thieves. Oh. Full disclaimer,
That's funny. I appreciate that.
Exaggerating a little bit, but again, in the context of the subsequent talks of this thing, that's what it feels like. Like he's just such a milquetoast character in this. If he screams in lowercase, and he's just this watered down character because Jesus, in the Jehovah's Witness imagination, has to be a representative, an exemplar of the new personality. And so a Jesus who is a rabble-rouser, a Jesus who is livid, a Jesus who is frustrated and bitter, that doesn't compute in their theology. So they whitewash him and sanitize him and castrate him. So I'll circle back to this. But the main thing that was spoken about today was the theme of the entire conference, 2025 Pure Worship. And so the whole format of today is they play little snippets of the Jesus film, and they'll play it 2 or 3 times, and then they'll have discussions on it afterwards. But the takeaways for all of them are just keep being a Jehovah's Witness. There's never depth or profundity added to it. It's just be better.
Worship involves more than just feelings. It involves actions.
The topic this time was imitate Christ's disciples. And so they would show a snippet of the video and then say, how can we best exemplify true worship as Andrew did in this video? When they talked about each of the different disciples, they spun it up as, well, because of John's example, you need to devote more time to pushing the cart around the city. Oh, what can Peter teach us about serving the Lord? Well, we need to sign up to go to Bethel, the headquarters of the JWs. What can John the Revelator teach us about engaging in pure worship and divine contemplation? Well, he can show us how to not go to college. So
yeah, it's always some message, some not so subtle message.
we can have more time to devote to our local kingdom hall. Because to Jehovah's Witnesses, worship is following Bible principles. It's doing the right thing. There is no adoration. There is no divine contemplation. There is no weeping as you think about the wounds of Christ, or, joy and divine ecstasy as you contemplate the divine logos, or anything wonderful and beautiful. None of that is there. The only way to show Jehovah that you love him is to shut up, sit down, and get back to work. JW theology feels borderline atheistic because of how little of a role Jehovah takes in it. That might sound like really surprising, but to a former Pentecostal, it's like he's just an afterthought. He's not the reason for any of this.
Totally, I agree. That's really interesting. That's an interesting perspective.
Not thriving with this one, guys. I wore my suit and tie again today, right? Same outfit as yesterday, didn't wash them or nothing. I'm a little hellion. And like yesterday, I did not get a single hello from a stranger, and I was A-okay with it. But there was a very sweet woman next to me complaining about her knees, and so I struck up a conversation with her. We start talking, and she thinks I'm a witness at first, and then I slowly disclose, like, well, actually, no, I'm just kind of like here learning more. And then she perked up, and then the woman beside her perked up.
Because it's an opportunity to witness to her, right?
And they were like, oh, really? You're a newbie. And then she started, trying to give me crash course systematic theologies. But I kind of started asking her more pointed questions. Like, well, pure worship, that's the theme of this conference, right? So what does pure worship mean to you? And immediately she jumped into this long-winded explanation about how, well, to worship Jehovah, you have to obey him earnestly and you have to live according to his principles. But all of that sounds like doing the thing that he wants you to do. But what does it mean to love Jehovah? What does it mean to worship him? And
it literally just means doing exactly what the organization wants you to do. That's it. It's no deeper than that. It's simply getting people to follow the rules and expectations.
It was you could see the sparks flying out of her ears. Well, you live according to what he wants you to do. That's how you honor him. And I was like, no, how do you show him that you adore him? And she was like, well, the world is just really bad out there. And I've
going into a talking point coma. Yep.
I can tell you that I've lived out there and I've lived in here, and this is a much better place. And it's just it doesn't make sense to them. I can point to religious people, clergy in a dozen different denominations who will break down in tears when they describe God to you. I can point to Orthodox priests who have cried as they describe the way in which they see the face of Jesus in the poor. I can point to a dozen different Pentecostal pastors who will cry when they talk about the glory of the Lamb seated on the throne. And I can point to Baptist pastors who will cry when they talk about the grace of God and how undeserved they are. But here, like when you ask people, who is Jehovah? They can give you the canned responses, but there's no heartbeat to it. And all of the songs that they sing are about perseverance until the end.
That's part of the Christian personality, quote unquote, the new personality, as they call it. It's about the canned responses. It's about being able to repeat those canned responses.
You just gotta white knuckle your way through it until we finally make it to paradise. And my question is, then what? Why do you want to be there? Because I remember when I was a Christian and my heart would leap out of my chest at the thought of being able to be with God. He was the first thing I thought about when I woke up. He was the last thing that I thought about when I went to sleep.
Gay, thinking about a dude at night, that sounds a little gay to me. Well, I guess God doesn't have a gender, so.
He was my everything.
God's non-binary, and you're thinking about God 24/7.
Leave gatherings of my friends and family to just hide myself away in a closet for a little while, just to pray and meditate on the glory and the beauty of God. And so when I hear all of this jargon about pure and undefiled worship, and I compare it to the experience of pastors and laity and priests that I know, it's so shallow. Some more like liberal denominations will talk about pure worship, and they'll say that ultimately the most pure form of worship is to do exactly what Jesus did. Heal the sick, feed the poor, help orphans and widows. Jehovah's Witnesses don't even do that. They have no form of external charity.
Human governments cannot solve the problems that you and I face every day.
Why? Well, because their logic is, based on Bible principles rather than the actual Bible. And they say that the world's going to hell in a handbasket and you can't, save people or try to fix a broken system. You just need to get people on the ark. What is the ark? The modern ark is actually the governing body and the Jehovah's Witness watchtower and the kingdom halls. You just got to stuff as many people in there as possible because all of it's going to hell. All of it's ruled by Satan. All of it is bad and equally detestable. So seeing the face of Christ in your neighbor, that's not pure worship. Pure worship is shutting the hell up and getting back to work. So that was day 2. It was less fun. Less fun than day 1. Starting to weigh in on me a little bit. Still got one more day to go and get some sleep. It's 9 o'clock right now. I need to be up at 6 and out the door by 7. So wish me luck.
It seriously sucks to be a Jehovah's Witness. Like, it's constant shit that you have to do. Constant shit you're thinking about. You can't have a single day of peace.
Day
3.
All right, gang. Day 3 fit check. Do I look like I need Jesus? I spent the last hour putting my earring back in. I just want to look like a witness magnet. Got my shit ton of beverages. We're ready to go.
Come along with me to a magical adventure to an assembly hall.
So I feel like an idiot. I am running probably about 30 minutes late. And I'm kind of beating myself up for it. But at the same time, every time I have like a hiccup like this, or I get to a place late or at a weird time, something interesting tends to happen because of it. So I'm just gonna roll with it, see what happens. I did it.
This is a very difficult battle, what I'm fighting here. This is like really, really fucking hard.
I made it. I survived. I survived all 3 days of the Jehovah's Witness conference. I am proud of myself. I feel like I deserve an Olympic medal. So I'm gonna say this. This was by far my least favorite and most favorite day of the convention so far. Least favorite in that the actual convention itself was the most vapid, had the least amount of substance. It highlighted.
It's interesting because it used to be my favorite day back in the day. Like I loved going to the last day of the convention because it was I believe it was the drama was what that day was. Each day would have something different. So Friday was usually just kind of getting there, getting to swim in the pool, you know, stuff like that. Saturday was the baptisms. And then Sunday was the drama where they would like stage a play or whatever. That was pretty entertaining, in one man's humble opinion.
Highlighted all of the worst aspects of this sect. But then it was also the best part of the convention for me because I had some of the most human interactions during this time, during the whole 3 days. I was running late and I was wearing, you know, very obviously not Jehovah's Witness attire. And due to those things operating in conjunction, I was stopped at the door by a very nice greeter. And this greeter saw me, welcomed me, and then asked if I needed help finding a seat. And I said, yeah, of course. So we're walking, we're talking, and he discovers that I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. And I just found out about this online. And his face lit up like a Christmas tree.
Because you're an opportunity. You're a mark, is why. You're a mark. Which is really sad when you think about it. Like, that's how they view things, you know?
Was so excited and he was so warm about it. And I'll come back to my encounter with this gentleman later on because it'll be more significant later on. But let's talk about the conference itself first. So today, I not only wore street attire, but I went to an entirely different place for this day of the convention. Today was done in an assembly hall, the greatest architectural marvel of the 21st century. If I could get rid of malaria-carrying mosquitoes, or the Kingdom Hall buildings, not the people, just the buildings, I'd probably pick the buildings, just based on how annoyed I am by them. But then the Assembly Hall, it's like the final boss of Kingdom Halls. There were 1,700 people stuffed into this place, and there's nothing to look at. There's nothing to distract you, which is exactly what they want. They want all eyes forward. So in addition to the Assembly Hall being the ugliest building in existence, the videos today were worse. Any of the compliments that I had about the Jesus film in the first day of this event have kind of sizzled out by now. Any of the creative effort and oomph that they put into this has largely just kind of tapered off at this point. But then in addition to them being worse, they don't even turn off the god-awful fluorescent lighting during the videos. It's painful. So one of the first videos of the day,
I didn't think about it. Interesting.
Is, you know, this young high schooler talking about how some other girl in her class has a crush on a girl.
Started to tell me that she's actually interested in a girl.
And so it's an entire like interview and dramatized recreation of this scenario where it's basically this girl's like inner monologue trying to figure out like, how do I tell this girl that I'm not affirming? And the whole thing just comes across like, dude, nobody cares if you're affirming or not affirming. You just look like a prude because you have to like bring it up. And this is kind of like a recurring motif in a lot of JW.
You look like you can't just fucking leave people alone is the problem. Just like leave people alone. Don't bother people. Get on with your own fucking life and whatever you have going on. And I will leave you alone and you can leave me alone. You know, that's like my philosophy behind it, but Jehovah's Witnesses don't seem to, you know, get that. That is the hardest battle that I will fight in this game, in one man's humble opinion. This one is no cakewalk, if you will, but that one was definitely the hardest, in my opinion.
Videos is that it just hones in on like the anxiety of what will people think when they find out I'm a JW.
They said your church won't support gay marriage.
Irene?
It's true. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we hold to the Bible standard on marriage.
Oh my God, dude. I've said this before. I'm not going to go through the whole thing all over again, but Jehovah's Witnesses refuse to... They cherry pick. They like to cherry pick the verses. In reality, the Old Testament is pretty much the only place in the Bible that you can look to get negative things about. Holy shit, dude. I just fucking died. This is the easy one. Now I have to do the hard one again. That sucks. The Old Testament's really the only place where the Bible is negative about gay people to any degree. And we don't really follow like the old law anymore, right? Anyway, the one place it talks about it in the New Testament, even a little bit, is in Romans 1:28. And it wasn't even talking about being gay in Romans 1:28. It was talking about idolatry. But, you know, people, I guess, don't care about nuance or details, so whatever. Oh.
Which is only between a man and a woman. And we remain politically neutral. That's such ignorant thinking.
Or it's all about people being bullied for not saying the Pledge of Allegiance or not taking a blood transfusion. And so they present all these scenarios, and they present the people who have to have these awkward discussions as martyrs, and then after the videos, there will be commentary given on the videos. So the advice that was given after this video was, well, you know, we always need to be ready to, you know, give an account of what we believe and, you know, be able to explain to people why we think the way that we do, and be ready to pull up the Bible principle, the chapter and verse that explains exactly where we get this theology from. But then there's a huge asterisk given every single time that I've heard this, and that is, if people get confrontational, walk away. If people challenge your beliefs, walk away. If people criticize you and say, hey, I don't think that that's a good reason to believe that, just leave the conversation. Peace out. Dip.
Stop. There's only one truth, and it comes from Jehovah.
So the other thing that
they can't deal with people thinking for themselves, for real. It's sad.
Do in these conferences is they'll keep replaying the same clips of these videos that they've shown in order to like stress a point. So they'll show another clip of the Jesus movie or another clip of this skit that was shown 2 days ago in order to have another talk that reinforces the point demonstrated by the clip of that video. And I'm glad that they did this because I missed this on the first go around. You remember the skit with the family that I was talking about, the mom with cancer? I just didn't pick this up on the first go around. The arc of the mother's story is that she is encouraged by a friend to take to social media and express her opinions on, you know, what it's like having.
Yep. Even when you have cancer, you should be out there trying to cram Jehovah down people's throats. Absolutely. That's the message here.
Cancer, cataloging her experience going through chemo.
If people could hear your truth, you would be an encouragement to so many people.
And you know, maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not. Maybe it could feel really cathartic, maybe it could, you know, inspire other people to be encouraged, or maybe it makes...
They're using people emotionally. They're using them. They're pushing them to... They're pushing them to benefit the organization in some way, even when they have cancer, and they want to use the cancer diagnosis against people. Like, it's seriously disgusting.
Makes you hyperfixate on it, and that's the reason to not do something like that. But the reason why that skit is shown is because they want to stress that, well, no, it's sinful to do something like that because it's vain.
Updating friends and family is one thing, but this feels wrong.
It's vain to tell the internet that you're dying of cancer. You want to tell other leukemia patients what it's like to go through your first round of chemo? Wow, way to be selfish, Jessica.
That's kind of funny. I didn't think about it.
No matter what I'm going through, I need to focus on what Jehovah promises and not bring unnecessary attention to myself.
It's just so insane. And again, with this...
Wait, so they're saying that she shouldn't be talking about her cancer diagnosis on the internet because it's all about you. And you can do it if it's all about Jehovah's Witnesses, the organization. but you shouldn't be doing it if you're like going on groups talking about how hard it is. Is that what they're saying? I think that's what they're saying.
Your worship, it is not about, falling to your knees and thanking God in sincerity and, getting caught up in the spirit or anything that I'm used to as a former Pentecostal. It is about purging the most minuscule acts of sin, which are often just humanity, from your life. Another video that they show is the story of Jesus meeting the Samaritan woman at the well. This is the famous passage where Jesus says to the Samaritan woman, "You do not worship what you know, we worship what we know, because salvation comes from the Jews." And then afterwards, there's a talk called...
Isn't this the one about about Jesus, like, talking to people who he shouldn't be talking to? And the whole point was like, don't shun. That was like the entire point of that whole story, right? And how are they going to twist this to be beneficial to Jehovah's Witnesses exactly, I wonder?
Do you worship what you know? The entire talk is about better knowing Jehovah through better knowing the Watchtower and better studying the Bible the exact way that the Jehovah's Witnesses do. So they'll say things like, why not examine the Bible for yourself? And it always makes me laugh whenever any group or sect or denomination says that. Just like, well, we just read the Bible exactly as it's printed. Oh, well, thank goodness there's no ambiguous or controversial passages in the Bible. Thank goodness that there's no two documents in the Bible that, look like they disagree with each other and have to be squared in some way.
He's got James and Galatians. I think he's talking about faith without works is dead, or salvation is attained through grace and grace alone, so no man can boast. I think that's what he's talking about. That's probably the most famous contradiction, but there are a lot of contradictions, dude. And I've talked about the contradictions before as well, but it is toasty as a motherfucker up in this piece. owenmorgan.com/bibviz. Bible visualization. These are all the contradictions. It's insane. Hold on, let me turn my heater down. What kind of animals may we eat? Recipe for the new moon sacrifice is different between Numbers and Ezekiel. Should we rend our clothes? Let's see. Is it okay to steal? What is in the Ark of the Covenant? When did Solomon's reign begin? Who's the most blessed woman? How long was the Ark of the Covenant at Abinadab's house? How should non-believers be treated? In Deuteronomy 13, it says, kill them. In 2 Corinthians, it says, no. In 1 Corinthians, it says, shun them. 2 Corinthians, it says, do not shun them. Love and be kind to them. Leviticus says, love and be kind to them. Matthew, Mark, Luke, Romans, Galatians. So anyway, there are contradictions all through it. It's the ultimate point here. It's the ultimate point. Wait, where did it go? Wait. Here it is.
Way or fashion.
I've done everything the Bible says, even the stuff that contradicts the other stuff.
They perfect.
I remember that episode. I don't watch The Simpsons. I haven't watched it since I was 10 or even younger than that. But I remember that episode. That's really funny.
Tee it up for themselves, and they'll say, well, you see all these other religions and denominations in the world. Certainly we can all agree that they can't all be true. We should read the Bible for ourselves to see which one is true. And then they just assert that they are the only ones who are correctly reading the text. And so
that's true. They absolutely.
Witnesses will train themselves and say well, here, I will read this verse to you. I'll even use your King James Bible. I won't even touch my New World Translation version. But it's all theater, because every single one of them have been theologically coached in how to go from point A to point B in their theological calculus. And so they'll tell you, well, just read the Bible for yourself. But that's code for sit down with a trained Jehovah's Witness publisher and read it alongside them so that they can decode it for you. But just with the wave of a hand, they just assume that every other sect out there is doing it wrong or improperly. And this false dichotomy that they showcase is just so apparent in all of the talks and all of the videos, that there are only good people inside the kingdom halls and only bad people in the world. It's the most glaring us versus them mentality I have ever seen. This whole
It's painful. Absolutely. I agree.
theater of just reading the Bible for yourself, like, man, if I did that, I would not come to the vast majority of Jehovah's Witness doctrine. I would not come to the doctrine that Jesus is Michael the Archangel. I would not come to the conclusion that blood transfusions are morally wrong. And I sure as hell wouldn't come to the conclusion that Jesus didn't have a physical resurrection. It gets kind of in the weeds and it's complicated, but based on their ransom theology as opposed to penal substitution theology, they have to say that Jesus's body was the thing that was given as a sacrifice. That was the thing that paid the debt. It wasn't Jesus taking the wrath of God, it was Jesus paying a debt. So it was a physical body for a physical body. So if Jesus resurrected from the dead, then it's like, hey, take backsies, and no take backsies in ransom theology. So they have to say that Jesus did not physically rise from the dead. What's hilarious is that today they showed a teaser for the next chapter of the Good News According to Jesus. And there's a snippet in there that shows the resurrection of Lazarus. So Jesus raises up his friend Lazarus from the dead. And Jehovah's Witnesses all say, yeah, that was a physical resurrection. A corpse came back from the dead. But in the case of Jesus, they say, no, it was a spiritual resurrection. It was just a poltergeist. That was just, it was just a, I don't know how you get that from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, where he literally says, touch the hole in my side, touch the scars in my hands. I don't know, there's literally a passage in Luke's gospel where he eats a broiled fish to prove that he has a functional GI tract. And then there's this verse at the end of the gospel where he says, quote, touch me and see, for a spirit does not have flesh and bones as you see that I have. So the invitation here to just read the text and take it at face value doesn't seem like it's gonna do them very well. And my point with all of that is just to say that Jehovah's Witnesses consistently stress and preach from the pulpit. They are the only ones who are taking the Bible seriously. They're the only ones who are reading it authentically and genuinely. And they see that as part of pure worship. And they look at everyone else in the world, and because they did not come to this same theological conclusion, their doctrine is false. And that is how you give Jehovah worship. How else do you give Jehovah worship? Through service. And bet your ass they doubled down on that today. There was even one part of the service where the speaker was basically saying, well, you should consider possibly spending less time engaging in your hobbies so that you can have more time to devote to the ministry. And these are already people who—
It's so painful, dude. Seriously. Oh my God.
Who have given up everything for the ministry. It's a recurring theme in all 3 days that people don't go to college and instead go and make buildings for the JWs, or they go and do door-to-door service, or they start a family of JWs. So these people have given up education, they've given up livelihood, they've given up friends and family members who have been disfellowshipped. They've given up everything for this, and it's still not enough. So what does pure worship look like? It looks like being undefiled from the world. It looks like giving more money to the governing body. It looks like having correct doctrine, which is handed to you by the Watchtower. And most importantly, it means working harder, because worship is first and foremost obedience. And in the midst of all this sacrifice, you have given everything. What can you hope for from Jehovah? What do you get in return? The answer—
absolutely fucking nothing. They will tell you that you get special treatment, you get camaraderie, brotherhood with people, you know, that kind of thing. And you do get those things to some degree, but there is a massive cost to it.
Answer is a little sprinkle of grace. Oh, and they pitch it so beautifully from the pulpit. You know, brothers, after decades of toiling and labor, maybe God will grant us grace and allow us to see somebody that actually appreciates our ministry. Maybe after knocking on thousands of doors, we'll get that one soul that's truly interested. And that hope of just having somebody actually listen to the message, maybe converting, that is the only shred of hope that they have. And that's the part of love bombing that I don't think XJWs accurately convey. Yes, it's contrived and it's coached, but there is a sincere sense of joy and euphoria there. The gentleman that greeted me at the door today, he was over the moon that I was there. He was over the moon that I had come and actually, responded to a brochure or read the website. I got curious and I came. He's been waiting years for this. He's walked miles with that damn cart just to hope that somebody will approach him and maybe inquire about how to please Jehovah. And then
pleasuring Jehovah like a young man should, right?
Walks my ugly ass to this assembly hall, and I'm just a soul on a golden platter. And he's excited. It's finally worth it. All of this effort and toiling and labor and striving, it's finally worth it because I have somebody who's interested in the message. So it's the middle of the day. I go back to my car and I eat my lunch. Walking back from the car, I see this gentleman. He flags me down. He waves me over. And he was sitting out by his car with his family. And there was this big Nigerian family, and they had cooked all this food the day before, and they brought it to the assembly hall, and they were having like a little barbecue out by the...
Well, that sounds nice. Yeah, they do things like that. Like I said, they're very good at community.
Back of their car. So he introduces me to his parents, his kids, his brother, and then his sweet old dad holds out a paper plate with a piece of chicken on it. And I know that I'm being love bombed. I know that it's, they're putting on their best show, but there's a level of genuine excitement that's there. So I'm standing with this guy and I'm talking, and then, a couple of other people see that I'm clearly a worldly person. And so each of them are kind of chomping at the bit, trying to answer my questions and encourage me to come back. And man, most of the time I was with them, I was just softballing them. I was genuinely trying to better understand their doctrines, what they think of the afterlife, what they think of the apocalypse, and it was a nice conversation. And so as I was just sitting, leaning up against a car, talking to this guy and his family, it broke me. Because I can look at some of the worst theology and life advice that I've ever seen, and then I have to reckon with the lived experience of this guy and contextualize my hatred for this theological system and find a way to articulate it and apply it to his individual case. And he's got family and extended family who have come from Nigeria to the US. And let's just say that I pulled him aside and I gave him a stern talking to. I showed him all of my videos. I showed him all the CSA cases, and I showed him,
Wow, that's interesting. So he chose to reverse witness to this guy. That is very interesting to me. I wouldn't have expected him to try that. Okay, cool. I'll take it.
Inconsistency of the 1914 issue, the 1975 issue. I gave him a really compelling case for why none of this is true. Is that going to be better for him? That he's in a country that he wasn't born into, that he lives in a foreign country where he doesn't have a solid support group outside of his family, and now his family is probably going to disown him. Or, maybe he takes his kids with him, but maybe his wife leaves him, maybe his cousin doesn't talk to him anymore, maybe his father doesn't say a word to him after this, and now you have a rift in the family. And I've read so many emails from ex-JWs who say that it just destroyed their family. And one of the biggest reasons why people stay in this sect is because they know the rest of their family will be told to never contact them again. And so this guy is pitching paradise to me, and it doesn't sound that spectacular. If I were given the option to live forever in that or to just die, I might genuinely choose death. But no, the thing that really keeps you in, it's not hope of beauty, of glory, of euphoria. It's not transcendence. It's not divine love. It's not the hope of a future resurrection. It's not this sense of divine justice. It's terror that it's going to ruin your family life.
I'm actually surprised he chose to talk to this dude about this at a convention too. Damn. I bet it didn't get through. I'm sad to say Jehovah's Witnesses have mastered the art of closing off completely. That was definitely the hardest battle in this entire thing. That whole set of battles is definitely the hardest.
And I looked at his family.
It's even harder than the main boss, for sure.
and thought about how
step back here.
Hope of a future resurrection. It's not. I looked at his family and thought about how awful today was and how much I wish that none of them believed it. But then you have to reckon with the fact that some of them do. I went back inside for the rest of the day, finished the talks, finished the rest of the videos, didn't have a good time, and then I left. And again, because I was not wearing the official, JW suit and tie, I was stopped by a lot more people and warmly welcomed and, invited to come back. And then I was kind of meandering through the little JW library that they have there. They've got some like old historical artifacts of, the early days of the witnesses. One of the three guys that I was talking to in the parking lot walks up to me and we strike up another conversation. And this guy that I was speaking to was not one of the members of this Nigerian family that I spoke with. But I was disappointed and a little out of it, and I didn't have any reason to shield my disgust with this whole thing. And so I asked him, gently, but hey, can I
Oh shit, he's the black dude who, hang on. He's the apostate now in this scenario. He's chosen to be the apostate.
Bethel's nice.
This guy, he is now officially this guy right here.
Me all the time that the end could come tomorrow. But look at us. We're still here.
Oh boy, he's become the person.
Be honest with you and ask like a real question. And he was like, yeah, man, of course you're not going to offend me. And I just asked him, what's beautiful in this? Because, candidly, it seems kind of stern. And, the paradise of it doesn't seem that great. And he said, well, it really is just the best life here. Yeah, no. I know that it's...
He shut down. He instantly shut down. It really is just the best life here is code for I'm in Jehovah's Witness mode now. And there is nothing that's going to pierce this thick skull.
It's a good life here, but the good life that's always pitched here, it literally sounds like it just boils down to not smoking cigarettes, not getting plastered on the weekends, and not having a bunch of STDs. Yeah, life is better when you don't have all of those things. But I know plenty of secular people who don't drink, don't smoke, and don't look at pornography and are married to their sweetheart. And he got a little squirmy and said,
I bet he did, yeah.
Well, man, it's selfishly, it's I do it for me. He said, this is really good for me. And I told him,
it's really not, is the problem. It's really not.
Man, I'm so happy for you. Sincerely, I'm glad that you're well. And I'm glad that this community has been good for you.
It hasn't been good for you, okay? It's not good for people to be controlled like this to this degree. It's just not. You may feel that you're happy in the moment, but I promise you, when you get out and realize what they did to you, your fury will not be quelled.
And I shook his hand and then I left. Here's what I want to end on. After 3 days, after a total of 24 hours spent with the Jehovah's Witnesses at one of their conventions.
God damn, 24 hours. I thought it was 8 hours a day. So I think it's 9 to 3 p.m. and they do an hour for lunch. You probably, it's an hour, I think. So you probably hang out with them for that hour as well. Travel time? I guess hanging out after the fact?
Here is my big...
How old is Owen? Nobody tell him. Nobody tell him. How old do you think I am? Take a guess. How old do I look? I want to know what you think. People guess. If you don't know, take a guess. And we'll see how close you are. 43. You can't be real. You can't possibly really think I'm 43. I'm not even close to 43. I've been here 5 years, still mad at the childhood I lost from being fourth generation witness. Yeah. 31, 37, 35. Okay. Interesting. I look like I'm in my 30s. Okay. You're 36, yeah. Lord Fonzie got it. I'm 36. 1989.
Takeaway. The theology of the Watchtower is a parasite. It leeches off of your social networks.
What's up? I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna go make food in a second. Also, I think, can you look outside and see if food is here?
It's not here yet.
All right. You're watching for the delivery? All right, good.
Are you getting off stream to make food?
I'm not getting off stream to make food, but I'm gonna go make food, and you can keep them entertained while I do, if you would like. All right. This is almost over, though. This has 7 more minutes, or 6 minutes, so I'm gonna finish this.
The community that you have with your family who are also in the JW organization. It sucks the blood out of spirituality itself. And for a large majority of these people, I don't desire for them to become non-religious. I don't want them to stop reading the Bible. I don't want them to stop going to a religious service every week. I want them to have the freedom of conscience to do what they think is right. But
I mean, I want them to have that freedom, but I would love for them to not be a part of this anymore. I don't want them to continue. I don't want to stop them. I just don't want them to continue.
Kills me inside that they don't have anything that makes a religion worthwhile. The hill that I'm willing to die on is this. The only thing that keeps people in the Jehovah's Witness circle is fear of leaving. Either because they know that if they leave, their friends and family members will never talk to them again, or because the outside world has been so despotic to them that they're terrified of ever going back. The outside world to the woman that I met yesterday is represented in, STDs and multiple baby daddies and...
Yeah, everything is bad on the outside in their mind. Like, you're dirty. Literally, people that are outside are literally dirty, and you don't want to hug them for fear you'll have to scrape it off afterward. Seriously, that's how they view it. It's destructive, dude.
People selling crack on the streets, and she is terrified of that world. And so she sits in her seat in the convention, she looks forward, labor and sacrifice and finger wagging from the elders, pressure and backbiting, ring another doorbell, give away another pamphlet, shut up, hunker down, and that's her life.
Dude, I love this dude's editing. Seriously, it's so good.
There's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and I didn't know if I would be able to or allowed to. But there was something that happened on the first day there.
Something that happened on the first day?
After the convention was over, I was walking through the halls, and I got recognized by somebody. And they were like, "Oh my God, are you heliocentric?" And I was like,
"Oh no."
Maybe. And they said, "Oh, I love your videos. Can I introduce you to my friend?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." But then their family was right there. And I wanted to, they were asking me who I was. And they said, "Oh, this is Heliocentric, the YouTuber." And immediately they asked me like, "Oh, what's your YouTube channel about?"
Yes, oh my God. I'm in this situation all the time. Like, what do I say? Do I tell them? I shouldn't tell them, right? I should just pretend that I talk about, like, I don't know, games or something. I find myself in this situation a lot more often than one would think.
And they already knew that I was a visitor, that I didn't have the name badge. And so I told them, like, "Oh yeah, I make religion content, and I talk about religion honestly. I hopscotch around." And I just told them the answer that I give any religious person when they ask about my YouTube channel. And so I shook their hand and said thank you, and then waved goodbye to the other two. And then as I was walking to my car, I had this panic overtake me. And I rehashed the conversation in my head. And I think when this person said, "Oh, I watched this YouTuber Heliocentric," I think that they told the rest of the family, like, "Oh, he's a vlogger," or whatever. But as soon as I told them that I make content about religion, sirens must have been going off in their heads. And they were thinking immediately that...
Yeah, what were they thinking? Why would they do that? I don't understand why they would come up to him and like introduce to family and stuff, considering his content. That's wild, dude.
they were going to Google my name, Google my YouTube channel. And on the drive home, I was just gripped with this terror that I may have just incidentally, accidentally set into motion a series of events that could lead to this young person being disfellowshipped. Just by
this young one, if you will, young one. That's like a famous phrase of one of the governing body members, if you're not familiar. Young ones.
By being there, just by saying what I do, just knowing that this young person has watched some of my videos that are critical of the JWs, that could be enough to prompt a disfellowshipping. And
it absolutely would, yes, 100%. If they knew that this person watched his videos, he would lose a lot. But you know what? That's on him. He was the one that chose to mention it in the first place like a dummy. I don't know what he was thinking with that one.
Like, I could imagine like all of this culminating and crescendoing into this person having a meeting with the elders and being told that they are no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I've been going to Kingdom Halls and investigating the witnesses for over a year, but this was the first time that I got to taste just a 0.1% of that visceral terror of what it feels like, wondering if you just fucked up. Because I was terrified that I just fucked up this person's life just by saying the wrong thing. That's
scary for sure.
They could be ostracized from their friends and family over a sentence. And I think to the hundreds of emails that I've gotten that stress the terror of walking on eggshells, wondering if any little thing is going to be sufficient to get you disfellowshipped, the secrets that you have to hide from your friends and family and even yourself in order to feel safe in this community. It's wrong. All of it's wrong. So I'm sorry there's not some big gag at the end of this, man.
Well, I laughed at the end. Thank you for that. No, it's pretty hard. It sucks. 100%. Young one. Anyway, the point is, it's destructive as it gets. It's wrong.
I'm just grieved. Every chance you get, man, to, give a witness a water bottle or to, be there for them if they're struggling or help them out financially or whatever the hell. Kindness like that goes a long way. And for those of you who are new, I'll say my tagline. I'm Jared. I'm an atheist. Go to church. And part of my hope for that is that I hope that the more people who go to Kingdom Halls and smile and are polite and ask sincere questions, they're not combative, they're not argumentative, they're just earnest and trying to understand better, I hope that that will go a long way in allowing some people to wake up.
Well, one step at a time. I think the most important thing is pushing against Christian nationalism right now. I think that should be at the very top of the list because Christian nationalists are wreaking havoc on everything at the moment. But as I always say, do your best, don't worry about the rest. Anyway, that was interesting. Tell me what you think in the comments. Okay, I'm going to finish this, which is almost done. It's almost, little bastard. It's almost done. And then I'm gonna go get food while Alpha Force Zero talks. Alpha Force Zero, are you there? Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. Are you gonna grab the microphone and hit the unmute button on my soundboard?
I can go sit in your chair.
You could, and you can in a minute, but you could also optionally hit the unmute button for number 2, yeah.
Hey guys. Can you hear me?
Talk again.
Hi.
Yes.
Yay!
Believe
Hi,
they can hear
guys.
you. Got to turn your mic up a bit because it should be roughly where mine is. Can you see where mine is? Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I see. Do I just? Can I
No,
just like?
look right here.
Yeah, it's the same
green.
on the soundboard.
Okay, talk again.
Hello.
Do you want to drag yours up just a hair? Because, yep. Talk
Hello.
a little more. More. Okay.
Okay, guys. Is it good?
That'll work.
Yay! Okay. Hello. How are you guys? How are things? How's it all going? I don't even. What are we doing? What am I
Playing
doing?
Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, you just want to get to a specific point and then.
I'm almost done with this.
Okay, cool.
I'm about to be done.
All right.
And then
I
I'm
will
going to go make
steal your
some food
chair.
and you can talk to people.
I'm going to steal his chair.
Right.
What is. I'm trying to pull up chat. Give me a second, guys.
Okay.
Is this it? Yes, this is it. Very cool. Okay.
You got it?
I got it.
Sweet.
I hope life's been good to you. It has. Things are pretty great. I'm sick. That's not fun. But you know, here I am.
Here you are.
I had to call out of work, so I'm going to be broke, but that's okay. I have trips planned and stuff for the next couple days, so I'm very much hoping that I'm better tomorrow. I have a field trip tomorrow.
Oh.
So if I feel sick while I'm on the field trip, I'm just out of luck. Felt sick today and, came home early, but on the field trip, I can't really do that.
Not good.
No. And it's going to be in a really crowded area, which I do not like. I don't like crowds.
I got 31,600 points, and I needed 32,000. That's very frustrating. All right, I'm going to go make some food. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, I'm going over there. Oh, wait, I think I pressed the wrong thing. I pressed the wrong thing, guys. This one. There we go. And then, there we go. I think. Yeah, I fixed it. I pressed the wrong thing on his whatever. For Valentine's Day, I'm going to New York City with my boyfriend. So, I'm excited for that. And it's just gonna be us. No one's bringing us. We're taking an Uber over to the train station, and then we're taking Amtrak there, and then we're gonna take the train back to Philadelphia at like 6 p.m. And from there, we're gonna take another train, like the local train system that we have here. He lives right next to me. We leave at 4 a.m. We leave my house at 4 a.m. Oh God, your hair looks amazing. Thank you. I'm thinking of changing it. Listen, I really like dyeing my hair. I'm thinking of doing a split dye, so like maybe this side will be black and then this side will be like a dark blue. I don't know. I have to figure it out. And then I also need my friend to cut my bangs. Again, my bangs grow so quick. I might just cut them like super short. But they're already in my eyes again, so I don't know. Working on it. What was I gonna say? Oh, I have this semi-permanent hair dye that I use just to like touch up my hair and stuff, and I used all of it. So I'm out of that for a minute. Yeah, I got a new PC for my birthday, which means I can stream and stuff because it's really high quality and everything is amazing. So I might start a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel at some point, or both. Who knows? I guess technically I have a YouTube channel. I might post at some point. I'll see. If I do, sorry, there's mail outside. If I do, my poor mother is gonna have to edit for me. We're getting packages. I can see what is that? Amazon? I see Amazon. outside, and I hear them. Our windows are open, so I can like see them through the blinds are open. If they glance over here, they're gonna see me staring. But I get distracted. Do you like baby bangs? Like, oh look, it would suit you so much. Yeah, that's what I'm considering. Just because, again, my hair grows so quick. Like, I got this cut to here-ish, or like here, a couple weeks ago. It's really bad. But yeah, so maybe baby bangs, something like that. I'm sure your mom isn't very busy. Well, she edits for dad. That's why she'd have to edit for me too. So I would swamp her with it. She's in college now, guys. My mom, she had a 2-year degree, but now she's working on more degrees and stuff. So she's also doing psychology. I'm going for psychology. She's also going for psychology. So we're going to be studying that at the same time. YouTube is like applying for a job and just waiting by your phone for weeks until it rings. Yeah, I know. Twitch is a good place to get your first handful of fans. Yeah. What would the channel be about? Probably similar to dad's stuff. I don't know. I really like talking to people. I don't like reacting very much, and especially not while I'm playing games because I just get so distracted. But I wouldn't really have, I don't know. I think I'd probably do something like that. I like discussing crazy people. I like discussing all of the stuff going on in the world and just like bringing awareness to that. So, unsure. The video games I play, I probably just play Minecraft. So, I don't know. We'll see. And I still have to decide. Dad really wants me to start a YouTube channel. Or like, to like post on YouTube and stuff. So, I might. I think it'd be fun. I also just don't have a lot of time. Like, I have a job, and I have school, and I have family and friends. So, I don't know. Maybe I could make my friends guest star. I try to keep my friends protected. I don't like say their names, and or their real names. I don't like show pictures of them and stuff like that. Just because even if they want to be on the stream, they don't. I grew up on stream and I grew up on YouTube. They like the idea of people knowing about them on a YouTube channel, but I don't think they actually know what that means. So even if they tell me I can say their real name, I do not. My boyfriend told me I could say his name, and I was like, no. He goes, oh, but who's gonna, because his name's uncommon. He's like, who's gonna know it's my name? That's not the point. The point is that I don't want to share your information out on the internet. Pluck the weirdest headlines of the day and dissect what the heck the context is. Wait, that would be so good if I could look up the weirdest political article or claims and just be like, okay guys. He wants you to follow in his footsteps. Yes, he does. Keep friends close and enemies closer. LOL, yeah. Yeah, I would like to be a YouTuber. It's not like a lifelong career that I think is gonna work out like perfect and whatever else. Especially because I've seen people try to be YouTubers and they're like, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for some people. So, but I think it would still be pretty cool just to, get on here and talk. I like being on stream and I like talking, I like talking to you guys to chat. So it's fun. But yeah, I don't know. I'll see. Maybe I'll start a YouTube channel. If I do start a YouTube channel, maybe my friends can speak, but they will not be there. TikTok is an easy place to start, but hard to move followers on. I have TikTok, but I'm on private. I used to have 1,000 followers, but TikTok deleted a ton of old accounts that haven't been active in a while, so I'm down to 650. One of my friends is super famous on TikTok. She has 34,000 something, which is famous for TikTok. Like 34,000 followers on there. It's pretty cool. She's a cosplayer, so you guys probably know her, but I'm not telling. I never talk about my streaming, but I give you a few suggestions for streaming, at least on Twitch. You're lucky you got people here that probably go and watch you. So that's a plus. Rating into other channels is good. Collabs are also good. Yeah. Even before my dad started Twitch, I've been very present on Twitch since early 2021 or late 2020, just because of the streamers that I used to watch. And I became really good friends with these streamers who were not popular at all. They don't stream anymore. But I became really good friends with them, and I remember their entire channel and stuff. I went to get lunch and Owen drastically changed. Yeah, guys. He's actually trans. I don't know if you knew this, but I'm Owen, and I'm changing my name to Alpha Force Zero. Guys, don't worry about it. Owen speaks the truth, but I like sidekicks. See, a bit late. Reactions to Bad Bunny, for instance, would be fun to dissect. Let me discuss that real quick. I was at my boyfriend's house when it was playing, and he was watching the halftime show. I had to leave literally when it started, so he didn't even say goodbye to me. Because I was like, I don't want to interrupt him here. I'm just gonna leave. And I texted him goodbye, and he was upset that I didn't say bye, but whatever. But one of our friends, she texted me and she was like, dude, I want to watch the halftime show, but my parents aren't letting me. They want to watch Turning Point. She's Puerto Rican. Her family's Puerto Rican. Everyone in her family's Puerto Rican. She doesn't have a single other speck of anything in her. And her family, her father, went to go watch Turning Point. But he turned it on. He was like, oh, actually, this is terrible. Like, if anyone here wants to watch Turning Point, put it in your AirPods, because I'm not listening to this. So that was something. But her Puerto Rican family didn't want to watch Bad Bunny. So that was interesting. Owen became 17. Yeah. Owen turned 17 while you guys were gone. Sorry, I'm like reading chat. Why Turning Point? I don't know. Turning Point became so randomly popular. They were like, guys, we're posting our own halftime show. Alright. I didn't see the halftime show because I don't watch sports. I also don't watch sports. I saw 3 minutes of it. Maybe at most, and then I left, and I did not say goodbye. And my boyfriend came to school the next day, and he was just talking about it the entire time. It was really funny. If you try to make a channel for your own content, people will just see it as a subsidiary to your dad's channel / content, and will most likely not get as many views / engagement. Yeah, that's that. Sorry, I just heard my dad talking to my stepmom. He's like, go to owenmorgan.com. Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons that I've been super hesitant to even like try my own content or stream on my own or anything, because I worry that like my dad and I are different. The content that we like is different. The stuff that we do is different. He likes reacting to things and playing video games. I like talking to you guys. So I worry that, people are going to come see my channel and they're going to be like, oh, cool. And then it's just not going to be my dad. And so they're not going to, they're not going to stay as engaged. But, we'll figure it out. One of these days. He really wants me to start streaming. So maybe I will. I just have to figure out what I want to do. He was talking about his age earlier. He is 36, but his birthday's in July. I think it's July 20th. So he's almost 37. He is a little less than 20 years older than me. I've been watching your dad since before he had video. I remember his face reveal. Guys. It was really cool. A little back before NYC and you guys getting ran out of town. You guys moved to Philly. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to watch in a while. We're a little bit away from Philly, but yeah, we're super close. We're in Pennsylvania now. We moved because New York City got, like, the prices were really bad, and then Trump got elected, everything like that. It's almost been a year, actually. February 14th, it'll be a year. I'm being kicked out, guys.
You can continue to sit here and... Yeah. Groceries didn't get here? All right. All right, let's see what we're going to talk about next. I haven't figured it out yet. We finished that. We could watch Cenk Uygur on here, but I think they're just talking shit about Jews, and we're not that interested. What else does Tucker Carlson have going on? Let's check Rumble. By the way, Duncan Wright, thank you so much for being a member. I really appreciate that. Oh, that's right. I wanted to talk about Lawrence Krauss. I'll talk about him in a bit when I'm done eating. Let's check Nick Fuentes. Let's see here. Fuentes. 1 second. Oh, shit. 1 second here. Oh. I put my orange juice on my coffee cup warmer and my coffee cup on my orange juice spot. All right. Nick Fuentes tortures Ilhan Omar. Let's check live. Okay, this can't be the right video or the right Rumble channel. Where's his Rumble? That's weird. He's missing a ton of videos. Does he not have a live stream? I don't know what happened to his... Where are his live streams? Look at this, The Atlantic. I watched 12 hours of Nick Fuentes. Amateur. Aiden Ross, ex Nick Fuentes, full stream. What?
We're gonna all get on games. Good and
bro. What? This is 4 months ago.
In alignment with the will of God. Everybody's very emotional. Everybody is whipped up.
I don't know what that is. Hold on. Here we go. The truth about Jeffrey Epstein, Jewish fixer.
Long time ago.
See where this is.
And that's the...
Holy shit, dude. He literally has 2.5 hours of lead up. That's wild. Why does he do that? I don't understand why he would have 2.5 hours of lead up on his stream. That is nuts. All right. Live stream starts at about 2:38:18. All right. Let's see. Add to queue. Process all. All right. Let's watch on Rumble. Not to be confused with Bumble. Totally different thing.
Back here with.
All right. There it is. Okay. This is Nick Fuentes talking about Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not actually sure what his take's going to be, so we're walking into this together. Let's see.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Friday. We have a lot to talk about tonight, lots to get into. Big show. Tonight, we're going to be getting into the Jeffrey Epstein story, which I promised you on Monday. And I know that a lot of people have been critical of my posts. Or
he actually said Jeffrey Epstein is really cool. He likes him. I'm sorry. Let me just show you that clip since it's relevant here. 1 second. I'm pulling up the twit live, but I know exactly where to find it. Oops. From Right Wing Watch, Epstein Fuentes. Media. Really? Okay, maybe I should drag this over to another window, just in case we get some adult entertainment inadvertently. Let me try this instead. Hold on. Just a second here. I know I have... All right, let's see. Jeffrey Epstein. I remember seeing the video of Nick Fuentes saying that Epstein is really cool.
Maybe it got taken down.
No. Definitely not. It was on Right Wing Watch. Okay, I can't find it, but he said Epstein is really cool.
not a pedophile, but you're not ready for that conversation. All of his victims, 14 to 17. That's not pedophilia. Now, you can have your opinion and your taste and your...
Wait, where'd it go? It's lost.
We're going to die. Oh.
Wait a minute. Where'd it go?
Okay, with that, we're going to dive into the show.
This is a new one. Hang on.
Into the show.
This is their whole show. I don't understand why...
Conversation.
Here it is, this.
You niggas are not ready for that conversation, but Jeff Epstein, not a pedophile, but you're not ready for that conversation. All of his victims, 14 to 17. That's not pedophilia. Now, you can have your...
Sorry, that is pedophilia. It just is. You're unmuted.
When you have to argue semantics, oh, it's not pedophilia because they're above this certain age. When you have to sit there and argue semantics to defend someone, that person is a pedophile. Or at least, at the very least, an evil, evil person who deserves to be gone forever.
Additionally, it wasn't just 14 to 17. It was much younger.
There were babies.
There were babies. But there were regularly children as young as 8, like as a normal part of the operation. So I don't want to hear it. There's another video from Fuentes. Let me find it. It was, hang on. Maybe I don't have that one, but I can find it easily. Maybe I can't.
Also, has he never seen a 14 to 17-year-old before? I'm 17.
They look like children. Yeah.
I'm 17. My sister is 13. She turns 14 later this year. We are babies. She's a baby to me. When I look at her, I don't look I don't sit there and think, she could pass for 20. She could pass for 30. This isn't creepy. I sit there and think, wow, this girl looks like she's 7 to me.
Yeah, and here you go. Check this one out.
You know what?
Right.
I saw something on Twitter. I don't even know if this is true, but something on Twitter said, like, all of Hitler's girlfriends were 16 and 17. And Alex Jones, I don't even know if that's true, but if that is, that's probably why Alex Jones.
That is true.
Jones called Hitler a pedophile. And it's like, you faggots would be saying the same thing about Hitler. MLK was a rapist, and Hitler was a pedophile. It's like, you know what? The world's a little bit more complicated than that. Okay? The world's a little bit more complicated than you're making it out to be. Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool.
He was not pagan in any way, shape, or form. He was Christian, fully Christian. And this isn't a controversial take. This is the scholarly consensus. He was a Christian. Also, he was a pedophile. He was. He absolutely was. He dated his niece, I believe, who was very young when they dated and ended up dead. And Hitler, this is before he was famous, he was investigated for the murder upside down, backward, and forward and cleared of wrongdoing before anybody knew who he was. So I'm comfortable saying that, you know, it probably wasn't him who took a shot at her. The going theory is that she checked out herself. But anyway, Hitler also dated Eva Braun, who was his secretary or somebody's secretary. I don't remember how they met. And she was like 18 and he was like 45. And I'm sorry, like, there's nothing like legally wrong with that, but it's a little weird is all I'm saying. It's just a little bit weird. Anyway, as we know, Nick Fuentes likes pedos. I think I'm comfortable saying that. Now let's listen here. Close. Hold on. Close. I'll leave that open. Born to Ride, Donald J. Trump. Perfect. All right. Awesome.
Or jokes or takes about Jeffrey Epstein. And Monday night, I went through some of the biggest hoaxes that we've actually seen that have come out of the Epstein files and some of the discussion about the Epstein files since they were released a little over a week ago. And I said, though, on Monday that I wanted to spend some time and actually map out what is really going on with Jeffrey Epstein. There's been a lot of fake stuff. There's been a lot of forgeries, things that are...
There have. This dude is literally defending Jeffrey Epstein right now. Really? What?
Are embellished and then passed off as fact, things that are just not true. And I said on Monday, critically, that this has created two different versions of Jeffrey Epstein in the mind and the consciousness of the public. There is the Jeffrey Epstein of the conspiracy theorist, which I now consider to be a pejorative again.
Consider conspiracy theorists to be a pejorative? Okay.
Which is that he is some kind of occultist, a true pedophile, trafficking children, not only for sex, but for cannibalism.
Yes. Yeah, that's the QAnon view of him, right. And it's not an accurate view of literally anything.
For science experiments, time travel, psychic abilities, things of that nature. And there's this picture of Jeffrey Epstein that emerges, and we'll talk about who is promulgating this, that really has no bearing in reality at all. The things that are said about him don't even sound real, and they're not supported by the facts. And I think there's a reason for this. I think the purpose, if there is one, if there's any intentionality behind it, in creating the myth of Jeffrey Epstein, is to either dilute or divert attention from or overshadow the real Jeffrey Epstein. And so on Monday, we broke down some of the forgeries. We broke down some of the hoaxes surrounding Epstein, especially that have come out of the files.
Don't you love how this dude is all about truth and debunking and everything up until the moment it comes to white nationalism and the Nazi Party? Then he's all in.
Tonight, I want to talk about the real Jeffrey Epstein and maybe what that myth is trying to cover up. The myth serves to distract from and dilute the real essence and nature of Jeffrey Epstein, which I think can be summarized that he is a Jewish fixer.
Oh, my God.
Epstein is a Jewish fixer operating at the highest level, the elite strata, in business, finance, the level of government, high society. He moves through the Jewish elite internationally, solving problems, moving money, dispensing favors, and represents a true operative, maybe not even of the Israeli state.
I don't think it has anything to do with acting as an operative of the Israeli state in the way that he seems to think it is. As far as I understand it, Epstein was heavily involved in Mossad, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. That could be a conspiracy. You know what? Let me just verify. Hold on. Mossad or... Let's see if I can find an answer to this. Hold on. Yes, he probably was a member of Mossad. That's what I'm picking up here. It sounds like he was working with the state of Israel, but he has not been confirmed as a Mossad agent. So I guess it's complicated, one could say.
But actually of Jewish society, of world Jewry.
What a word to say.
Transnationally. So I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that. We're going to break it down. Tonight, we're going to talk about some of what has been exposed in the emails, things that have been totally overlooked, and things that are not being talked about at all. We'll talk about some of the newer revelations that shine some light on who Epstein really was and how he got to his position and the kinds of things that he got up to and who he was involved with. So that's going to be our main story tonight. We're going to talk all about that. Like I said, we'll break it down. It's going to be a great show.
All right, we'll get to it. Damn.
And I think this is a very necessary contribution to the discourse on Epstein because, again, I'm just not seeing anybody talk about this. And it's sort of strange.
I mean, people aren't talking about it because it's not 100% verified. It sounds like he probably was. In fact, very likely he was. But it has not been fully verified. A 2020 FBI document from the Epstein files contains a confidential human source who alleged Epstein was trained as a spy under former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and was a co-opted Mossad agent. The same source claimed Alan Dershowitz told the U.S. attorney that Epstein belonged to both the U.S. and Allied intelligence services. Dropsite News reporting revealed Epstein played a role in brokering a security agreement between Israel and Mongolia and setting up a back channel between Israel and Russia during the Syrian civil war, and that a longtime Israeli military intelligence agent lived at Epstein's house for weeks at a time. Epstein co-founded Carbine, a tech firm with Ehud Barak, which is the former prime minister of Israel, that was staffed by ex-Israeli intelligence operatives. There's a lot more evidence here. And it sounds to me like he is a Mossad agent. But it's, it hasn't been dead to rights confirmed yet. We'll put it that way. But I'm comfortable saying it.
Because at the same time...
Let me put it this way. I'm as comfortable saying that Epstein was an Israeli spy as I am saying Trump is a pedophile. There's strong evidence. Eyewitnesses coming out and saying these things, but we don't have an actual videotape of Trump raping a child. So take that for what you will. I'm comfortable saying it. I would call it.
That this is the #1 story in the country, #1 story in the world. And even the subject of conspiracy theories, posts about this are going super viral on TikTok and Instagram. Nobody seems to be getting it. And the one word that you're just not hearing in connection with him is Jewish.
You're not hearing that word regarding Epstein? I am.
And suffice to say, everything about Jeffrey Epstein is Jewish. We're hearing about pedophile, Satanism, Baal. We're hearing about cannibalism, all these kinds of things. And don't get me wrong, there can be overlap. Two things can be true at once. But the defining aspect of Epstein, and in particular the network which created and sustained him, is its organizing principle. And that was Jewish identity all the way. So it's going to be a good show. I think it's very important. Before we get into it, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash the like button.
Like, why are people so obsessed with smashing these buttons? What if you just gently poke the button? Do you think the button likes being smashed? Maybe it likes light caresses? I mean, there are all kinds of things you could do to the button that would be better than smashing, it seems to me. But okay.
Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show. Remember to check out our merch store. Get your Epstein quarter zip. It's not really an Epstein quarter zip because it says USA.
Okay. Wait, is he saying that he got this shirt, he designed it as merch because it's just like Jeffrey Epstein's shirt? Is that what he's saying? What is wrong with him, dude?
It does not actually have any reference to Epstein other than maybe resembling a shirt that he wore. It says USA, American flag on the side. Get it at fuentes.store. This is...
Seriously, what is wrong with him that he would do that? I don't understand. Like, what's the point? Why would you get Jeffrey Epstein merch like this?
It's the third week I've worn this. I was getting dressed for the show and I said to myself, what am I going to wear? And I open up my closet and I'm moving my shirts around on the hangers, and then there it was. And I kind of looked at it and I said, Epstein quarter zip again? Yep. I was like, Epstein quarter zip a third time? Yep. Yeah. And I think I will. I don't know if I'm going to wear it next week. Epstein number 3, down the hatch. Epstein quarter zip, third week in a row. Batter up.
I don't understand why, though. I want to know why. He's just edgy. That's all he is. It's his whole personality. You know what? You're right. That's it. It's about being edgy. It's about pissing off the liberals or whatever. That's the bottom line. It's like, I would love to see him mature and be an adult at some point, but he's just going to continue doing this.
Let's do it. And we have to because we're talking about the files. So we're going to get into it. One other thing, remember to check out our subscription site, americafirst.plus. If you want to support the show, $15 a month, get access to our website. We're launching the brand new version of it. Very soon, we're going to have MP3 downloads. So if you want to download it on your phone, listen to it on your commute to your wage slave job, or while you're doing your workout or whatever it
Like he gives a fuck about wage slaves.
is you people get up to. That's americafirst.plus. $100 a month, you get access to the Telegram group chat that I am in. And I'm in there hanging out with you guys, talking to you guys, bonus content, voice messages. And the satisfaction is through the roof. Everybody loves
satisfaction. Please get to the fucking point, Nick. We know you're a piece of shit, all right? Thank
what
you.
he was. What was his role? Institution, effectively, to 25, early mid-20s.
Hold on.
At least that's underage.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure this out.
Comments that I've made, because I find it to be, like I said, the way I want to start the show is talking a little bit about the conversation surrounding Epstein online, because I find it to be deeply problematic. And I know that I've been the subject of a lot of controversy because of this conversation for comments that I've made. I said that Epstein was not a true pedophile in the sense that, strictly speaking, according to definitions, dictionary definitions, the girls that he preyed upon and groomed were aged 14 to 17.
No, they weren't. There were babies involved, but regularly there were children as young as 8 or 9. It was not just 14 to 17. And either way, I don't give a fuck. Okay? That's pedophilia as far as I'm concerned. I could not possibly care less what your definition is. If you are 60, which is what I think Epstein was, like 60, and you are not just in a relationship with 14-year-olds, but trafficking 14-year-olds. If you are trafficking 14-year-olds at that age, you're a pedo. I couldn't possibly care less what definition you think fits.
At least that's underage. He also trafficked other girls that were above the age of 18, up to 25, early mid-20s.
And I think up to 22. He's probably referring to a 22-year-old who was trafficked. But is that okay? Even if it was trafficking 22-year-olds, think about what you're arguing right now, really. You're arguing that it's okay to traffic 22-year-olds. Human trafficking is wrong no matter who it is. What is broken in you?
And people took issue with that. I'm not defending that. I'm not saying that
could have fooled me.
It's okay or legal. Of course, it's still a crime, and of course, it's still depraved and deeply immoral. He's trafficking vulnerable women for prostitution, effectively, and I think there's nothing good about that. Strictly speaking, though, we have to define our terms, and we have to create the correct categories.
Give it a fucking rest. He is so obviously defending it, right? What game is this? This is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's Endgame. I'm almost done.
And I've said the reason for this is because you need to understand what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. What was his function? What was his role? And that's the question that we're going to answer tonight. Now, the reason we have to talk about his specific activities and draw those distinctions and define the age groups and the type of activity that was occurring, it's because that actually tells us what he was. And so I've seen for the past couple of weeks, people are fixating on the fact that he was a sex trafficker. They call him a pedophile. And they focus on some of the most extraordinary and wild and actually uncorroborated, unsubstantiated claims in the files.
Okay.
So, for example, they look at the claims about the youngest victims under the age of 14. And they talk about ritual abuse with occult or religious significance.
Who is talking about that? I guess he's saying QAnon's talking about that, right? Yes, QAnon is talking about that, but that's not actually... That is not actually happening. The cult ritual garbage is nonsense.
They talk about cannibalism, torture, and murder, these sorts of things. Now, the question concerning what Jeffrey Epstein is involves the types of activities he engaged in. And the fixation on those kinds of claims, which for the most part have not been proven, are not substantiated with evidence, in many cases involve just basic errors, basic forgeries using artificial intelligence, transcription errors, data corruption, these sorts of things, and I'll give you some examples in a moment. The fixation on those sorts of claims tend to support a theory of Epstein which says that he is some kind of occult-like satanic religious figure, that the island and the activities he was involved in suggest that he is involved in some kind of occult cabal that secretly controls the world and has maybe no relation actually to any organized religion, has no relation to Judaism.
Where the fuck are you hearing that? I have not seen anything to indicate that. Everything that I have seen so far has indicated that he's very clearly Jewish. In fact, he's not just Jewish, he is a Jewish supremacist. He believes that non-Jews are worthless and deserve to die, kind of thing. It's insane.
Might not even have a deep relationship to the Israeli state or the...
My wife and I haven't been to the hall in a year. Well, congratulations. That's fantastic news. Very nice. It's been many years for me, but that's great.
To any organized religion, has no relation to Judaism, might not even have a deep relationship to the Israeli state or the Russian state.
I'm sorry, what? What? What are you talking about? Jeffrey Epstein might not have a deep relationship with the Israeli state? What I just read said that he absolutely did. This is unusual. I've never heard Nick Fuentes defend somebody from the accusation that they're a Jew. I'm just confused right now.
Or the CIA, but is in fact higher than those states. And so you then tend to get some conspiracies which say that this is an Illuminati thing. It's a Khazarian mafia thing. People talk about occult sects. For example, those led by Sabbatai Zevi and Jacob Frank in the Middle Ages and the early days of the Enlightenment. And so when we talk about what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, of course, this is in the service of understanding what Jeffrey Epstein was. What he did suggests his purpose. And
by the way, he mentioned Khazarian Mafia earlier. This is a really popular conspiracy theory among the right. Khazarian, Khazarian Mafia. It's a modern repackaging of old anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. The Khazars were a real Turkic people who ruled a large empire in the Caucasus and Central Asia region, roughly from the 7th to the 10th centuries. Their ruling elite did convert to Judaism, probably sometime in the 8th century. This is historically documented and not controversial among historians. That part isn't. Here's the conspiracy version. The Khazarian Mafia theory claims that Khazar converts weren't real Jews, but essentially infiltrators who adopted Judaism as a cover. The theory alleges they became a secret ruling cabal that controls global banking, governments, media, and orchestrates wars. Basically the Rothschild, Illuminati, New World Order stuff. QAnon talks about it a lot. It's just nonsense.
Therefore, what he was really involved in, who he was associated with, and the kind of operation he was running and why he existed. And as I said on Monday, so much of that is problematic. We went through on Monday some of the most viral claims that have emerged from the Epstein files. And I went through some of them on the show. I even talked about them on Telegram too. For example, there was an email that said that Epstein made a bank transfer to an entity called Baal. And this is something that...
Like Baal, B-A-A-L, Baal. Baal being one of the basically demons in the Old Testament. Hold on, I'm just looking here. Just a second here. Okay.
The conspiracy theorists took and ran with. And they said that this was evidence, this was established fact, and supported the claim that Epstein was some kind of occult Satanist. They went through these 3 million documents. They did a command find or an AI search. They found the name of an ancient deity mentioned in the Bible. And they said, this email, which is already vague and ambiguous, this mention of Baal, this verifies the claim that he was some sort of satanic Kabbalist. Well, we found out that this...
And if you don't know what Kabbalah is, it's basically a form of meditation that's outlined in some Jewish text. I think the book of Zohar, maybe? If Kootmaster were here, then he would know. It's just meditation. And they make some lofty claims about it. Like, if the original Kabbalic masters were around today, they would be able to control things with their mind, like telekinesis style. But that knowledge was lost all those years ago. So anyway, it's nonsense. It's just meditation. But they claim that the Nazis made this claim too. They claimed that Kabbalah is Jewish occultism, basically. It's secret, evil, control the will of men type of thing. It's nonsense.
Was most likely a transcription error. And whether the original document was scanned or maybe the entry was mistyped, upon further inspection, it was very clear that it didn't say Baal at all. It actually said bank name. It was part of a receipt for a wire transfer, and under that was all the other information you would expect on a wire transfer. Routing number, bank account number, all of the different things.
Okay, that's kind of funny. I haven't heard this one, but he's debunking it for us. Very interesting.
Things that you would see on that sort of receipt. And it would actually make a lot more sense that the entry said bank name rather than Baal. That's one of those that got millions and millions of views, hundreds of thousands of likes, retweets, engagements. And surely you have many people in the country that now perceive that as an established fact. That is in their mind, that's in the consciousness that that is something that actually happened. He's a satanic pedophile. There are other instances in the files. For example, a well-known Indian sent an email to Epstein talking about doing hot yoga in New York City.
A well-known Indian? Who's he referring to here, I wonder?
And the email was very vague, very short. He said 30 between 6 and 7 at 9 a.m. This was one of the emails. That was the line.
Jesus fucking Christ. Is that real? I didn't hear this.
I saw people posting this uncritically, again, with tons of engagement, and they said, well, surely that means there are 30 6 to 7-year-old children who are showing up for hot yoga at 9 a.m. in New York City. Like, that even makes sense.
But okay, are you saying that you don't think that Epstein was doing any trafficking, any human trafficking? Because that's what it sounds like he's saying right now.
Of course, people saw the numbers. That is something that confirmed their pre-existing bias, their pre-existing theory about Epstein. And so people didn't even think about it. Think about how ridiculous that would be, that there's a class of 37-year-olds doing hot yoga in the morning.
Obviously, that's not what was being said, right? Like, he knows that. Why is he pretending otherwise?
How would that even be possible? How does that even make any sense? I don't think
For people to do yoga,
there's a lot of 7-year-olds doing hot yoga in the morning on a weekday. Well, it turns out, if you actually need evidence beyond just common sense, that if you go on Google Maps, the name of that hot yoga studio, which has since been closed down, well, it happens to be located on 30th Street between 6th and 7th Street in Lower Manhattan.
okay, let's find out about this one. Hang on. The document that said 6-7 hot yoga, 9 a.m. Let me just see if I can find some info on this. Hold on.
So it's not 30.
Oops. Okay, here we go. So it said Hari NYC 30 between 6 and 7. Then we go to Matcha, okay? Followed by Meet Me at Class 9:30. So many hot girls, promise. And ending with Promise and abundance of young P-word flesh. Love A. Holy fucking shit, dude. That's wild. So it actually says Hari NYC. It was a real yoga studio in New York on 30th between 6th and 7th Avenues. It's now closed. So 30 between 6 and 7 is street address. The 9:30 a.m. is a class time. Hot yoga or Kundalini is an actual yoga class. This is conspiracy for sure. I guess this is conspiracy. But the email is genuinely disturbing regardless. Like, Jesus Christ.
6 to 7-year-old girls, that was actually just the location. And there were many, many examples of this in the files. There was another one. And these have actually come out since my show on Monday. Yeah, I went over about a half dozen of these on my show on Monday. These are new ones that I've seen crop up over the course of the last week. There was another one. Email from Epstein. He said, we have a yummy 19-year-old who is coming to visit. 19-year-old Brazilian girl. Well, unfortunately, many of the emails, when they were uploaded, the data was corrupted. And you'll find throughout the emails that many of the characters, many of the individual letters or numbers are replaced by an equal sign or some other form of punctuation, which in context doesn't make sense. So it turns out that in the emails, that 1 in 19 actually is shown as equals 9. So a lot of people are posting an email that says yummy equals 9 years old.
I've seen that too. Yeah, there are a lot of equal signs. And I think that was corruption, to my understanding. That's accurate.
And so they think that Epstein was trafficking a yummy 9-year-old from Brazil.
He actually was, though. Like, I don't know about that one case, but there were definitely babies involved here. Horrifying shit, dude. Horrifying.
Well, if you actually inspect the files, you'll find the original document says 19. The 1 was corrupted, replaced with another character. People just overlooked that. They chose to ignore that there was something in there which maybe didn't really make a lot of sense. That there's an additional character there, but for them it was invisible. And so you see this kind of stuff throughout the Epstein files. And as I said on Monday, why am I doing this? This is the question I hear. This is what I see all over X, because I and other people like Michael Tracy and Richard Hanania and others have been trying to separate out the fact from fiction. We're looking at the 3 million files and what is being reported about them on social media and the viral claims, the most extraordinary claims, and we are actually trying to discern whether the information is true. Is there actually a video of a girl tied to the grass being tortured with a magnifying glass? Is there actually a yummy 9-year-old? Are there actually 36 to 7-year-olds doing hot yoga? We are trying to discern whether the claims are real, whether the information is substantiated, whether there's evidence. And I see people online say, well, why? Why are you defending Epstein?
It's kind of weird. Like, I understand not latching onto or talking about those things. I don't, because they're conspiracy, obviously. But why bring them up specifically to debunk and protect him? Like, the beginning of this was him saying Epstein's not so bad.
Why are you scrutinizing what is being posted on Twitter? Is it because for one reason or another you're supporting him, defending him, want to exonerate him or absolve him of guilt? And the answer is no. It's not about defending Epstein. It's
could have fooled me.
Not about absolving him of guilt. It's about achieving an understanding of who this person really was, what he was really doing, what he was really all about. To do that, we actually have to have some basis in reality. We actually do need real evidence. We actually do need to see things that are real and not fake, not AI forgeries or, like I said, typos, scanning errors, data corruption. We actually need the real information. And as I said on Monday, the reason this is so important is because when we're looking at the facts, we're also engaging in narrative creation. So if you are looking at all of the fake stuff over the past week, you've seen that all of this has been assembled together into a narrative, a conspiracy theory. All of that contributes to a picture of who these people think Epstein was. And so the kinds of things that I see on TikTok and on Instagram and on Twitter, it is a summary of the facts. And it says something like Epstein is a pedophile, Satanist, controlling our government.
Again, you know, you got to keep things like in perspective here, but I just don't get like why he would be defending Epstein. It doesn't make sense to me.
This is the refrain that I see on all the viral posts. Our government is controlled by satanic pedophiles. Our government is controlled by occult pedophiles. Our government's controlled by satanic child molesters. And you can see how this information, you can see how the most extraordinary claims, like, for example, FBI tips that George W. Bush cut a girl open and ate her intestines and the fecal matter.
Okay, I didn't see that. That's disturbing and weird. There are some FBI tips that I do not trust. Like, there is an FBI tip that Donald Trump was there to witness the murder of some kid or something. I don't fully trust that. I don't think I believe that. But there's also an FBI tip that Donald Trump, it was from a limo driver, was in the back of a limo talking about brutally taking advantage of some young girl. And there was nothing in it for this limo driver. He never went to the news with this. Nothing. He just reported it to the FBI in 1997. 1997. And left it at that. So in my opinion, there are some very credible tips out there.
Contained in her intestines. You can see how those types of things, which are not corroborated, which don't even make sense, other things which have been debunked, are being pooled together, and without being fact-checked, without being scrutinized, they're assembled together and creating a narrative.
It's interesting. It feels like he's I don't know that I would call it defending Epstein exactly, but he's trying to debunk the conspiracy theories. I wonder why. Why is he debunking conspiracy theories with Epstein right now?
Which then goes out into the zeitgeist. And now you have basically this consensus opinion forming in society that what Epstein is, when we think Epstein, what he is a satanic pedophile running the government. Our government's run by satanic pedophiles.
Well, I don't know about satanic, but Donald Trump is definitely running the government and has taken advantage of children. I'm very comfortable saying that. In my opinion, I don't see how you could see it any other way after all of the evidence out there.
And this is what I call the Epstein myth. This is the hoax. And it is a hoax. As we laid out on my show on Monday, which is called the Epstein hoax, so much of the data points in that myth are just not true. They're either not substantiated, not corroborated, or to the extent that there are bits and pieces that have been put together, upon closer investigation, they turn out not to be real at all. Why is this problematic? Because when we look at the evidence and we actually scrutinize what is occurring here, we find there's a very different picture of Epstein. We find the real Jeffrey Epstein. And the real Jeffrey Epstein is quite different than the myth of Jeffrey Epstein. And the real Jeffrey Epstein, I don't think, is a satanic pedophile that runs the government. The real Jeffrey Epstein is a Jewish fixer. That's the real Epstein. That is his essence. That is what defines him. That is the milieu that created him. That is the higher society that empowered him with money.
And as we know, he fucking hates Jews, so there's that.
Connected him to powerful people. And ultimately, those are the interests that he served. And once you create this dichotomy, once you create this dialectic between the Epstein myth and the Epstein reality, you start to see that maybe the former is actually a kind of a limited hangout, which is to say that there are selected facts or stories or data points that are introduced to the public, the most salacious, the most sensational, the most outrageous, and they are literally curated for public consumption as a form of a giant diversion, as a form of a giant red herring.
But he's not a red herring. He actually took advantage of children. Like, how can you possibly say Epstein is a red herring or a diversion? It's actually hurting Republicans terribly to talk about Epstein. In fact, it's hurting a lot of people. Like, people in the UK have been, like, fired from their positions as government officials because of their involvement with Epstein, as revealed by these files. So I don't know what you're talking about.
If the public is so fixated on things which are debunked, not real, but also things that are maybe extremely sensational, they get caught up in a completely different narrative, a completely different vision and version of who Epstein was. And then they never actually get down into the real facts, the real information, and ultimately, which elucidates the real Epstein. And so in a way, it's sort of like a layered psyop. You have this figure who is in the center, regardless of what you think about what he did and what he is, it is inarguable that he is at the center of higher society. He is a connector and a nexus for business, intelligence, government, for different countries. He's at the center of elite society.
I can agree with that.
This person is exposed completely to the world, and all the people and how they operate and their dealings are exposed with him. Their emails, their investments, the places they went, the people that they knew. It has all come to light because he went down, the DOJ collected all of his information, and now it is in full public view, and there is attention on it, lots of attention. Now, how might you obfuscate the truth if it's in plain sight? How would you obfuscate if you are these powerful people and you want to protect this racket?
That's interesting. It's interesting how he's framing it here. If you want to protect this racket, though, I'm not sure what he means by that exactly.
You want to conceal something which has been so exposed and for which there's so much attention on it, how would you conceal it? Well, you would probably obfuscate it. If you can't exactly hide it, if you can't get people to stop talking about it, maybe you give them something else to talk about. Maybe you give them something more interesting to talk about, something more sensational, more extreme. You give them something that is actually not real. You don't have to get them to forget about Epstein. You just need them to not really understand what Epstein was doing. This is why.
And what was Epstein doing in your mind? I guess he was a Jewish psyop, right?
It is so important to separate the facts from the fiction. So like I said, Monday we went through who Jeffrey Epstein is not, and we looked at fake images created by AI. Like I said, we went through some of these emails, many of them certainly eyebrow-raising and concerning, but ambiguous. Some of them completely fake, again, containing errors. Some of them are forgeries. Some of them are just misunderstood. People didn't do the due diligence. Tonight, I want to go into the real Epstein. And like I said, I'm going to paint a picture for you based on the real evidence inside the emails.
And that picture is going to be super forgiving and favorable toward Trump, right?
Real data, which supports the claim, supports the vision of a Jeffrey Epstein who serves a very particular function, which is called the fixer. I don't think that Epstein is somebody who was engaged in magic rituals. I don't think he was somebody that was a religious Satanist. I don't even think, strictly speaking, he was a pedophile. I think he was a pervert.
What? How can you possibly say such a thing? That Epstein was not a pedo. I don't understand where you're getting this.
And I think he liked younger girls and probably a sex addict and had eclectic tastes, interest in sadomasochism, interest in pornography and things like that. And I think that what Epstein did for his clients is solve problems. Solving problems using his connections in government, in business, solving problems related to money.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to cover this soon, but Lawrence Krauss is one of the most cited names in the Epstein files. The guy's reputation is in tatters now. And we'll get to that.
But also political problems. Also providing a service, which was that he did traffic women. And so for the rich and powerful, one of the ways that he would get connections to serve his clients was introducing them to women. And the women were younger, but I don't think they were prepubescent.
That's not true. It's just not. They were. And even so, it doesn't matter.
And again, that speaks to what his real role was. The age of the women kind of gives you a clue about what he was actually up to.
It does?
Were they the youngest women possible because he was just that evil? Or were they women who were just young enough where they could be leveraged as blackmail material, young enough where they're attractive to an older man who might not be a total sicko, but just a regular old pervert?
I think you're a sicko if you're 60 years old and you're looking at 14-year-old girls. I'm sorry, I don't see how you can see it any other way. You are a sicko.
I think that tells us what his real function was. So first, I want to talk about this article from Israel Times. It's sort of interesting. One of the things that's said about Epstein is that he's like an Israeli spy. To the extent that people are talking about Epstein's connections in this world, people say that he worked for Mossad. And unfortunately, I think this is really the only word that people know about Israel is Mossad. But as a matter of fact, Israel, like any country,
it's like the Israeli CIA, basically.
Has different factions. They have different intelligence agencies. They have different political parties. They have a right and a left. They have Israeli military intelligence. They have Shin Bet. They have Mossad. What I hear all day long about Epstein is he's Mossad, he works for Mossad. And it's interesting that since these files have been released by the DOJ last week, the Prime Minister of Israel actually came out and addressed the allegations head on. And Netanyahu said on Twitter yesterday that Epstein did not work for the state of Israel.
And you trust him? You trust Netanyahu all of a sudden? You, Nick Fuentes, of all people, trust what Netanyahu is telling the world?
But it's interesting what he said in particular in denying the claim. So there's all these allegations that Epstein is a Jewish spy, works for Mossad, works for Israel. The Prime Minister of Israel weighs in and says that's not true. Epstein never worked for Israel. He said the reason why is because Epstein's connections were to Netanyahu's political rival, Ehud Barak. So for those that don't know, Netanyahu is on the political right in Israel. Netanyahu is a lifelong member of the Likud party, which is a far-right party in Israel. And they've been in power virtually the entire time for the last 50 years, with some exceptions. And so Netanyahu, in order to throw off these allegations that Epstein was in any way involved with him or with Israel in general, he says, well, that's impossible because Epstein worked with my political opposition, Ehud Barak, who comes from the left. And
okay, so they're saying that Epstein was left-wing. Hang on. Let's see if we can find out.
And Netanyahu says Ehud Barak, being of the left, is fundamentally opposed to Israel's national interest. This is what Netanyahu had to say.
Okay. Wow. Fascinating. So Ehud Barak was center-left, but still a complete monster, as far as I can tell. And Netanyahu says he wasn't a true Israeli because he was left-wing. That's psychotic. All right, I got to go grab some. I'll let this play for just a second, okay? 308-14. Let me write that down. 308-14. All right, I'll be right back.
This is from the Times of Israel. It says, quote, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Friday that the, quote, unusual close relationship between former Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein proves the latter was not an Israeli agent. Netanyahu wrote, quote, Jeffrey Epstein's unusual close relationship with Ehud Barak does not suggest Epstein worked for Israel. Actually, it proves the opposite. He writes, stuck on his election loss from over 2 decades ago, Barak has for years obsessively attempted to undermine Israeli democracy by working with the anti-Zionist radical left in failed attempts to overthrow the elected Israeli government. Barak's personal fixation led him to engage in activities publicly and behind the scenes to undermine the government of Israel, including fueling mass protests, movements, fomenting unrest, and feeding false media narratives. The U.S. Justice Department's release of millions of internal documents related to Epstein last week revealed and confirmed his ties to many prominent people in politics, finance, academia, and business, including Barak, who succeeded Netanyahu as prime minister from 1999 to 2001, and then served as Netanyahu's defense minister from 2009 to 2013. There is no evidence of wrongdoing by Barak, a former IDF chief who was Netanyahu's commanding officer in the elite Matkal unit. However, after a previous Justice Department release of Epstein files showed the financier claiming to have advised Barak's 2019 election campaign, Netanyahu in November shared an article from an anti-Israel socialist outlet which suggested, based on Epstein's ties to Barak, that the sex offender had once worked for Israeli intelligence. So this is sort of interesting. Netanyahu gets up and says, there is no proof that Epstein worked for Israel or worked for Mossad. Why? Because Epstein's connection to Israel was a left-wing politician named Ehud Barak. He says, and for that reason, and reason being rather, he said Ehud Barak, being of the political left, stands in opposition against a right-wing government. Ehud Barak is working with the Israeli left to protest the right-wing Israeli government with mass protests and influence campaigns in media. So this would sort of be like if Donald Trump said Epstein could never be in the CIA because he's associated with Bill Clinton, who is anti-American. It would sort of like be the same thing as saying that. Epstein could never be a CIA agent. He could never be an American asset because his only connection to the government was former Democrat President Bill Clinton. And how does that make sense? Well, even though Bill Clinton was the former president, he's an anti-American, radical left-wing guy. He wants America to be destroyed. It doesn't really make any sense. Ehud Barak was a former prime minister of Israel and served in Netanyahu's government as the defense minister. Epstein's connection to the Israeli government is Ehud Barak. We'll go through some of their connections in a moment. He worked for Netanyahu, was the head of the country, and maybe more importantly than all of that, Ehud Barak was the former head of Israeli military intelligence. Ehud Barak served in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, and rose through the ranks inside the Israeli intelligence community and eventually became its head at the end of the last century in the 80s and 90s. What's notable about this is that ever since Ehud Barak left politics in the early 2000s, which he did for about a decade, he then became a salesperson for Israeli intelligence companies. He worked with Unit 8200, which is Israeli intelligence, one of their elite units, to infiltrate Silicon Valley. And Unit 8200 Israeli intelligence operatives were sent out in the first 2 decades of the 21st century into the United States, specifically into California. And they were told to create internet startups, tech startups, so that they could slowly infiltrate the defense technology sector. This effort was spearheaded by Ehud Barak in close proximity to and in association with the Israeli intelligence establishment. This is a story from the Jacobin magazine, a left-wing magazine, about Epstein's ties to Barak. This is what it says. This is based on the files that came out last week. It says, quote, Jacobin looked at more than 1,000 documents from the latest trove and identified more than 60 instances between September 2010 and March 2019 in which Barak and Epstein arranged to meet face-to-face, usually in New York, but other times in Florida, Boston, Paris, or even Epstein's infamous private island, Little St. James. At least 7 of those meetings took place while Barak was still serving as Minister of Defense for Israel. That count does not include the dozens more times where the two arranged or tried to arrange to talk over the phone or via video call, nor their frequent email exchanges to each other. It also does not necessarily include the more than 24 times in that period that Barak stayed at one of Epstein's properties, typically the Upper East Side apartment building on 301 East 66th Street, which he owned, and which his staff referred to internally as simply 301. The disclosures add to the recent stream of explosive revelations about Epstein's relationship to Barak and in turn to the Israeli state. Epstein, long rumored to have ties to Israeli intelligence, has, in a series of stories by Dropsite News, been revealed to have worked with Barak to broker security agreements and arms sales on behalf of Israel. Last year, Jacobin revealed that Epstein had privately claimed to have been behind Barak's 2019 political comeback in Israel, revelations that, after being tweeted by current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, caused a firestorm in the country. Okay? So, one of the lesser reported aspects of Epstein's life, people say, well, he is Mossad. People say he is with Israel. And in a certain sense, this is a little bit vague. This is a little bit too broad and general. And I feel like this is not being highlighted at all. What I see all day, all week on TikTok, on Instagram is satanic. He's a satanic pedophile. He's an occultist. He's a cannibal. He's part of this sort of mysterious, esoteric thing. When you drill down into it, there's nothing esoteric or mysterious at all. He was an operative working not even necessarily with Mossad in particular, but actually with Israel's military. He's working with the IDF. This is according to a left-wing paper, which is probably sympathetic to Israel's Labor Party. It says there are no fewer than 60 instances when they met face-to-face in a 10-year period. Epstein and the former prime minister of Israel, and then even at times when that former prime minister, Ehud Barak, was serving as the defense minister. And like I said, this guy in particular, earlier in his career, was the head of Israeli military intelligence. They together are working alongside each other on arms contracts, surveillance contracts, intelligence contracts to foreign governments all over the world and to Silicon Valley. They're working together on deals with Palantir, deals with Carbine. They're working together on deals in West Africa, all over the world. And so there's not actually a lot of ambiguity about any of this. No spelling errors, typos, anything like that. This is actually the bulk of the emails. This is the substance of what's actually there. Epstein is working hand in glove with the Israeli state and in particular with the Israeli military. But here's a bigger question. So this is raised in the Times of Israel.
Okay, backsies. Now let's talk about Lawrence Krauss for a minute, because I've come to the end of this game pretty much. I hate everything beyond this. Every now and then I do the whole thing, but let me actually switch. Hold on. I'm going to switch games, and we're going to talk about Lawrence Krauss. Okay, here we go. We are going to talk about Lawrence Krauss. I'm thinking I'm going to play Breath of the Wild original, not Tears of the Kingdom. Although Tears of the Kingdom is fucking awesome, but... Oh, this is the wrong one. Hang on. Here's the controller. All right. Or not. Is it dead? What's going on here? I'm sorry. Hang on, guys. 1 second. Was it dead? That was the problem. It was dead. Okay.
Netanyahu tweets about...
Let me pull up 317, 308, 14. All right, cool. Anyway, tell us what you think about it in the comments with Nick Fuentes. Just a colossal scumbag. All right, let me pull up... Krauss. Here it is. This is Lawrence Krauss. He is one of the most mentioned people in the Epstein files, believe it or not. And he's also one of the most famous atheists on planet Earth. I wanted to talk about his connection to Jeffrey Epstein because it's pretty fucking vile, actually, as it turns out. But let me just give you an introduction to Lawrence Krauss if you don't know him. This is Lawrence Krauss and Richard Dawkins, the actual most famous atheists on planet Earth.
Yeah, when you say sex assigned at birth is arbitrary, it suggests that, in fact, sex is assigned and it's not real.
Okay, first of all, nobody says that sex assigned at birth is arbitrary. They say that gender is a social construct, and it is. Because words are social constructs, and our understanding of our own experience in the world is socially constructed. Anyway, okay.
And so it's the cultural aspect that's pushing people to make this confusion between gender and
I think
sex.
it would be like saying to an anorexic person who's skeletally thin, "It's okay. You're not thin. You're not. It's kind of like that. It's pushing them into it."
Yeah, well, and just
So affirming somebody's gender, just calling them she if they're trans, that's like telling an anorexic person that they really are very fat and that they should lose weight or something. Is that what he's saying?
so both you and I can get into more troubles. There's this thing of where fat shaming, where people who are extremely obese don't. There are health problems with being extremely obese, like it or not. But the current fad is to not suggest there's a problem there.
That's a lie, actually. You want to hear something really fascinating? I went on a whole deep dive into this and discovered that the health at every size movement that claims that you are not fat if you are fat, or you're not, let me rephrase, that claims that you're not unhealthy for being very overweight, that whole thing is fake. It's astroturfed. There is a health at every size organization that's existed since, I think, the 60s, the 70s, if I remember correctly. And the goal is to make people more comfortable. Basically, you should be able to go into a hospital waiting room and sit in a comfortable chair and not have to sit in a chair that's too tiny for you. Airplanes' seats should be larger and more comfortable. There should be a baseline level of comfortability. That's the bottom line. And this organization gets $300,000 in funding per year. But Kellogg, General Mills, and a bunch of other very famous companies, like the people that make Little Debbie, I forget who that is, they have been paying dietitians on the Tic Tac to make insane, egregious claims about how it's healthy to be heavy and how if your body is telling you you need another jelly donut, then it's because you need another jelly donut. The actual organization, Health at Every Size, brings in $300,000 a year. The influencers being paid to spread this garbage are being paid millions per year. That's called astroturfing. That's what that is, astroturfing. So anyway, this whole thing is fake. Hostess, is that what it is? Hostess? The company is named Hostess? Anyway, the point is it's all fake. It's all made up. And this dumb son of a bitch, this Epstein client here, fell for it like the sucker that he is.
I mean, to be proud of being that, and
yes,
and you know, and I understand it, because you don't want to. The difference is you don't want to discriminate against people who are obese, but you don't have to say that it's healthy.
Nobody says that. Literally nobody, except for the dietitians being paid by Kellogg and General Mills.
Yes, quite.
And I'm sure I'll get hate mail for that one. But
oh my God, who the fuck is sending him hate mail over something like that?
Anyway,
the point is Lawrence Krauss is a complete sack of shit, but it gets worse, believe it or not. It gets worse. Here's the scale of his relationship with Epstein. Krauss's name is mentioned more than 5,200 times in the Epstein files, with thousands of communications dating back to 2006 when Krauss was at Case Western Reserve University. At least 60 emails were exchanged directly between Krauss and Epstein. Krauss's science outreach organization, the Origins Project, received $250,000 from Epstein. Krauss sought Epstein's advice on sexual misconduct allegations. This is the most damning material. In late 2017, Krauss reached out to Epstein after being accused of sexual misconduct himself, and he sent him a draft response and writing, "Could use advice." Epstein responded by asking, "Did you have sex with her? Condom? Did she take it?" and advised Krauss not to respond. Krauss forwarded media correspondence to Epstein. The files show Krause forwarding Epstein his correspondence with BuzzFeed news reporters investigating him, as well as communications with Arizona State University officials. Krause sent Epstein draft versions of public statements, calling one a Kavanaugh version and another almost Jeffrey-level smart. They were best friends. You want to talk about Trump and Epstein being best friends? These guys were best friends. I think that Krause probably replaced Trump, like, later on. Like, Trump was Epstein's best friend through the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and then Krause was best friends with Epstein from 2008 to 2017. Or 2019, whenever he died. He tried to get a lawyer to consult Epstein. Krause contacted lawyer Justin Dillon and made what he called an unusual request. He wanted Dillon to call Epstein for advice on his Title IX investigation. Epstein was furious when Krause disclosed their relationship to the lawyer, writing, "Every email is to do with engagement/money. In the future, please do not disclose our conversations with who I speak, or please do not disclose our conversations or who I speak with." Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. How many do we have here? Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. End quote. Personal closeness. In 2011, Krause wrote Epstein. This is on the Globe and Mail, by the way. In 2011, Krause wrote Epstein, "Beyond anything else, you are my friend. I hope we can always remember that no matter what." Pariahs Club joke. In 2018, Krause responded to Epstein's joke about doing Men of the World conference by suggesting it include Kevin Spacey, Bill Clinton, Al Franken, and Woody Allen, all men publicly accused of sexual wrongdoing. Derogatory language about his accusers. In an August 2018 email after ASU, which was Lawrence Krause's university, after ASU found he had groped a woman at a conference in Australia, Krause asked Epstein for a seat on his jet and referred to the woman who made the incident public as the bitch. The Woody Allen connection. In January 2019, a text from Woody Allen's number to Epstein read, "Thinking of you as we're seeing Lawrence Krause for dinner tonight." Epstein responded, "A member of Me Too casualties." Epstein tried to use Krause for access, apparently. Documents from February 2026 Department of Justice releases indicate Epstein emailed Krause attempting to get him to introduce Epstein to podcaster Joe Rogan. And he tried. Joe Rogan talks about how hard Lawrence Krause tried to get Epstein on Joe Rogan, and Rogan just wanted none of it, fascinatingly. Regarding consequences, the Aristotle Foundation, a Canadian think tank that Krause is associated with, cut ties with him after these emails were released, saying they were unaware of these allegations or his connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Again, that's from the Globe and Mail. Here, I'll show you. It's from this article. This is what I'm pulling from. But, God, fucking... It's got a paywall, so anyway, it's kind of frustrating. I hate paywalls. Regarding Krause's defense of Epstein, believe it or not, it gets even weirder. Krause told the Daily Beast, quote, in 2011, "If anything, the unfortunate period he suffered has caused him to really think about what he wants to do with his money and his time and support knowledge. Jeffrey has surrounded himself with beautiful women and young women, but they're not as young as the ones that were claimed. As a scientist, I always judge things on empirical evidence, and he always has women ages 19 to 23 around him, but I've never seen anything else. So as a scientist, my presumption is that whatever the problems were, I would believe him over other people." He added, "I don't feel tarnished in any way by my relationship with Jeffrey. I feel raised by it." So we know for a fact that Lawrence Krause was accused by women and was upset that he was outed as the sex pest that he is and referred to them as that bitch when to Jeffrey Epstein. That is wild, dude. This guy is the biggest piece of shit on planet Earth. Honestly, I am so sad to hear that. Archive.io is useful. That's true. I've used it, but it doesn't always work. It just kind of depends. But anyway. Also, notice he's using his position as a scientist to bolster his own credibility and to defend a predator, a literal pedophile. Regarding the Skepchick early encounter, when Skepchick, which is another YouTuber, reached out to Lawrence Krauss for context on his defense of Epstein, he essentially doubled down, claiming Epstein was the actual victim, that the teenage girls took advantage of him, and that they made false accusations to get his money. That's psychotic. This one is from Skepchick's website, skepchick.org. Absolutely insane. When colleagues questioned him, Krauss argued that Epstein was an easy target for those who want to take advantage of him, and that he believed Epstein when he told me, quote, and that he believed Epstein when, quote, he told me he had no idea the girls were underage. You're the biggest sucker on planet fucking Earth, then. Please. Even in 2011, he acknowledged seeing young women around Epstein, though, is the point. And regarding Krauss's island visit, in 2006, Krauss organized a conference on St. Thomas funded by Epstein's foundation, which included a trip to Epstein's private island for dinner. He helped invite roughly 20 well-known physicists, including Stephen Hawking. I didn't know that. MIT physicist and attendee Alan Guth later told the New York Times that Epstein was always followed by a group of something like 3 or 4 young women. Jesus Christ, dude. As recently as September 2015, Krauss was discussing visiting Epstein's Caribbean island again, telling him he was eager to see you down there, and that he was working to finish a book so I can actually celebrate that as planned. So I can actually celebrate that as planned on the trip. Epstein's PR strategy through Krauss. Epstein told Krauss to discredit his accusers by depicting them as irrational and opportunistic. Quote, concentrate on your point-by-point refutation. An article on women agreeing on seeing flying saucers does not make the claim real. Break the charges into ludicrous, ogling jokes, etc. That's Arizona Free News that reported on that one. Right here. Ex-ASU professor, renowned atheist physicist, asked Epstein for sexual misconduct advice. Krauss also served as a gateway for Epstein into the scientific community. At 2017 Origins Project workshop on artificial intelligence, Epstein showed up with 2 young East European-looking women, according to a postdoc who attended. Krauss introduced him as my friend Jeffrey. In 2014, Krauss put Epstein in touch with Scientific American's editor-in-chief, which led to Epstein being invited to observe editorial meetings at the magazine. He also emailed Krauss asking him to introduce him to Joe Rogan, as I said earlier. I'm just looking if there's anything else interesting in this article. So I guess he's basically rebuilt his career outside of academia, Krauss has. He runs the Origins podcast with Lawrence Krauss, launched in 2019, and publishes a Substack blog called Critical Mass. In 2024, he edited a book called The War on Science. Oh, I remember that book. It was complete trash. It was a collection of essays from 39 academics addressing perceived threats to academic freedom, like DEI programs, wokeness, and cancel culture. Seriously. I should read that. You know what? I'm going to get a copy of it, actually, come to think of it. Give me a second. We'll go through some of it, probably. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it real fast. Oh, legal, like. Yeah, legal. Yeah, we'll do it on your terms, motherfuckers. Hold on. I'm sorry, I got to do the bit. It's a requirement. A legal requirement for me to do the bit.
In Jasper County, motherfuckers, I'm coming for you. Yeah, motherfuckers, I'm coming for you. Yeah. All legal like. Yeah, legal. We'll do it on your terms, motherfuckers.
Yeah, all legal. We'll do it on your terms, motherfuckers. I'll find the book. All legal. I'm looking here. Where is the book? The war. Here it is. I found it. All legal. I don't do things illegal. Only legal. We'll do it on your terms, motherfuckers.
We'll do it on your terms, motherfuckers.
I love it so much, dude. I'm sorry. It's so good. Anyway, I'm going to get this book by Lawrence Krauss, All Legal, and we're going to read it. We'll read it on air at some point. I got it. Lawrence Krauss. Awesome. And now I'm going to copy it in to here. The War on Science. The War on Science. Oh, no. I just put it in the wrong spot. Anyway, the point is Lawrence Krauss is a complete piece of trash all the way down. Just a vile scumbag. Completely fucking worthless in one man's humble opinion. Let me know what you think about him in the comments. I am connected to him in some ways. So, I don't know. Maybe I can get a message to him about what a complete sack of shit he is. Tell me your thoughts. Just vile, dude. Vile sack of shit, honestly. We'll do it on your terms, motherfuckers. All right, let's see. Hold on. So, completed play button still isn't. Play button is still grayed out. The book cover is now missing. Awesome. Skeptic. Let's see. Anything else that I want to hit specifically? I guess we can continue with Nick Fuentes probably. Tucker Carlson. Let's see what's happening on. Yeah, let's see what's happening on the Twit. Let's go to Right Wing Watch. See what they've been covering lately. Mark Meckler. Brian Babin thanked God for getting us a new president in Trump who has saved the nation from apostasy, blasphemy, taking our children down the path of homosexuality and perversion.
Apostasy, blasphemy, taking our children down the path of homosexuality and perversion.
What is this from? Maybe we can watch this. Powered by Zoom? What is it? It's see, I'm just looking through. Let me see if I can get my mitts on this. 1 second here. Where is no long form video? I think it's from All right, let's see if I can find where this is originally from. Maybe we can watch it. Give it a second. Got it. Found it. I believe. Let's see. Wow, it's 4 hours. Jesus fucking Christ, bro.
History.
Yeah, we're going to skip all the boring shit.
For the sin. Every wedding. The two men don't do that.
Two men don't do that. Oh, boy. Let me tell you, buddy. I don't know where you've been, but they do actually do that.
Full spectrum.
To hear
truth. Bro, what the hell am I watching? What is this trash? Okay, this is, I think it's the National Gathering for Prayer and Repentance is what this is. I remember them doing this in previous years, and they said some real psychotic stuff, dude. I think it's run by the Family Research Council or the... Yeah, Family Research Council, I believe.
These House members, we decree,
Lord, every
open the womb.
And they said some really psychotic stuff. This is from last year. Let me see if I can grab it. Hold on. Give me just a second here. Sorry. All right, here we go. I'm sorry. Just glancing through here. All right, here we go. This is from last year. Check this out.
Open the womb of the women of America to give birth. I'm asking for 100,000 LGBT to be saved and transformed by the power of God. Something stronger. Lord, what the hippies were in the 70s, loose a new revolution that the LGBT would be saved and it would be a loosing of a power stronger than the rebellion. So today we pray in the name of Jesus.
So he's praying for gay people, apparently.
Loose an outpouring of the fire, a baptism of fire that is stronger than all the culture.
Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Get help. Seriously. Okay, people just want to live their lives. By the by, Nerical, thank you for coming. I will see you next time. I'll see you tomorrow then. All right, let's see. It's downloading, it's transcribing now, and it's going to go through an AI analysis, and we'll watch it on there. But anyway, they said some other really psychotic stuff, too. Let's see. You're just looking.
Dear Heavenly Father.
Kevin McCarthy and Tony Perkins. Well, Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, led them in prayer last year.
Dear Heavenly Father.
This is from 2023, actually.
We come before you today to seek your forgiveness. Father, we thank you for that forgiveness. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your grace. Father, I want to lift up these faith leaders from across the nation. Father, I want to thank you that we can pray and seek your word and seek your forgiveness in the museum of the Bible.
You literally supported a pedophile during his impeachment trial. I don't want to hear about your forgiveness and all that shit. Anyway, let's listen to what they had to say this year. It's bound to be psychotic.
We welcome you here today. We're so honored you have come. Tony, as we reflect on this moment,
That's Tony Perkins, the leader of the Family Research Council. Vile, evil scumbag. I've covered him before on my channel.
The fourth annual one that we've done.
We didn't plan to do them every year. In fact, we prayerfully sought the Lord as to whether or not we needed to continue gathering together, but I think the world around us would suggest that there is a lot that we need to pray and repent for. This is not another event, and so as we begin today, I want us to get into the right spirit and frame of mind. This is not another religious gathering. It's not another event. America stands at a point where we...
That is literally exactly what it is. It's another gathering and or event. And also, America stands at a precipice because of your ass. You brought us to where we are.
Another religious gathering. It's not another event. America stands at a point where we need an encounter with God.
If you consider the various empires, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, and all the others that have come and gone, none of them sat together and said, you know what, we're going to self-destruct in a few years. And they'll talk about not our beginning, but our ending. We don't ever presume that something like that could ever happen to the nation. And so we live in this naive notion that the way things are the way things will always be. But such is not the case. And so,
hey, that's fair enough.
We go into prayer right now. May I request a sense of holy urgency, a sense of holy desperation. I want us to pray the same way they must have been crying out to the Lord from Jerusalem when they looked up and they saw 185,000 Assyrians surrounding them. If we could, let's come with that awareness of urgency, because if we could see into the realm of the Spirit, I don't need to finish the sentence. We would be praying that way.
So let's begin.
I don't need to finish the sentence, so I'm going to finish it anyway. Okay. Oops.
Begin this morning in prayer. Father, we come to you with that sense of urgency. And I pray this morning that you would...
Like, what are they urgent about exactly? What are they complaining about? What do they fear or whatever? You know, like under Nazi rule in Germany, there was a group called the Brown Shirts, and they eventually became the SA. And they were basically like, they were a replacement military. The Wehrmacht, the German military, was not legally allowed to be larger than 100,000 troops by the Treaty of Versailles, because they were so, you know, because they did World War I, basically. And after they lost World War I, France and the other ally powers imposed restrictions on what they were allowed to do. So anyway, the SA stepped in to fill that gap, and they were a paramilitary group like the Proud Boys, who trained together, led by a gay dude named Ernst Röhm. And being gay was illegal in Germany at the time, but, you know, he was useful to the cause, so they kind of ignored it or overlooked it. But they were violent and extreme and insane and bloodthirsty. And after they won the election and Hitler took control, they didn't, you know, Hitler didn't win his election, but after he was appointed, they were restless. They had nothing to do anymore. And there was no, like, battle that needed to be fought. But these people were still bloodthirsty, like the SA was. So what do? They kept talking about revolution. And they were restless and angry and looking for somebody to hit, basically. And Hitler ended up having Ernst Röhm murdered in the Night of the Long Knives. Because Goebbels and Göring, his two right-hand men, were whispering in his ear about how Ernst Röhm was planning a coup, which was not true. Ernst Röhm was loyal to Hitler to the end. The point is, after they win and take control of everything, they're restless. They have nothing to do. They don't know what to do with themselves. And it turns into a chaotic mess. And that's what's happening now with these people.
Open our spiritual eyes to truly understand the critical moment in which you have entrusted to us in this nation. We thank you for the positive things that we see. We thank you for the movement of your Spirit. But Lord, we're troubled by the fact that we have deviated from the very founding of our nation. As we go into the 250th anniversary of our country, may we rediscover those biblical roots.
Well, see, therein lies the problem. Our country does not have biblical roots. We were very specifically and intentionally constructed as a secular nation. In fact, the first secular nation ever in human history on this scale, certainly. This whole thing is completely fabricated nonsense, is the point.
Return to the ancient past was our founders led us on at the beginning of this nation. So today, Holy Spirit, we invite you to come, and we turn this over to you. May you guide every word that is spoken, every prayer that is uttered. May it ascend to the throne of God Almighty. And may you hear, Father, as we repent and as we turn to you, and may you heal our land. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Lord, as we gather for this time of spiritual transaction, this holy convocation, we begin with the sounding of the instrument of worship you created, the instrument you gave Abraham.
Wow, that was abrupt. They just stopped playing the piano like that until they killed him too. Yeah, he was, you're talking about Ernst Röhm, I assume. Yeah, he was killed in the Night of the Long Knives. He was completely loyal to Hitler, and they basically started conspiracy theories about him, Göring and Goebbels did, because they were uncomfortable with the SA and how powerful they were, because they had 2 million men as members of the SA, this paramilitary Proud Boys type of group. Military was only 100,000 men. And the Steel Helmets, a veterans group, merged with the SA, and then they had 4 million members after that. And, you know, Ernst Röhm was startling and disturbing establishment figures. So as a sign to Hitler, part of consolidating power was him capitulating to the military by killing Ernst Röhm. So they grabbed him and they took him to a prison and put him in the cell. And basically Hitler said, give him a gun, put the gun in the room with him. And in 10 minutes, if he hasn't checked out, go shoot him. Shoot him yourself. So they went in and he had his chest, a bared chest. He had ripped his shirt off and said, I'm loyal like this. And so they pulled their gun out and shot him in the head. And that was the end of Ernst Röhm. Anyway, that's the story.
Abraham in covenant in substitute for his firstborn son, the lamb, the ram, God's heavenly call, calling forth the king, calling us to repentance, calling us to alarm and to cry out to the Lord through his own created voice, the sound of the shofar. We join heaven and earth together to hear your voice in Yeshua's name.
These people are so goddamn fucking weird, dude. I swear to God, they are so fucking weird. Like, what are they even doing? Why are they doing this? What am I listening to right now? Is he pretending to be a bird? Oh, I thought he was, like, singing with his voice. This isn't him singing. This is some kind of a weird... Why? I don't understand why they're doing this. This is so weird. Okay, I'm jumping forward. Let's jump past the singing shit. Hold on. Here's where it starts.
3 dates of infamy. 3 dates I want you to remember, because in a moment I'm going to come back to the close and tell you why these dates are critical. And particularly that last date, take a look at it, because that's the date that spawned the national gathering for prayer and repentance. My purpose and my goal in these next few moments is to prepare us to go into the Holy of Holies. If you remember the story of the tabernacle, you go into the outer court first, then into the holy place, and then finally look at the Holy of Holies. The priest could only go in there once a year, and he had to be prepared Remember that, because I want us to prepare to go into the Holy of Holies. I'm going to use the illustration of marriage for the next few moments, and I'll come back to this picture right here. Why is marriage so attacked? Every country my wife and I travel to, every country you go to, marriage is under attack. How could something so simple as a man and a woman coming together in holy matrimony be so controversial?
It's not controversial. If you want to get married, then get married. Like, nobody cares. Nobody has ever cared.
This attack in virtually every country we go to. If you take a look in Genesis, the book begins with a marriage of a man and a woman, and it closes with the wedding of a bride and a groom. How could this be so controversial? Let me pose this question. Is God male or female? The answer is neither, nor is he some androgynous
non-binary
being. God, the attributes of God, cover the full spectrum in such a way that when the Old Testament writers try to describe him, sometimes they describe him in masculine strength, mighty, a protector. Other times they would use words we associate with femininity, nurture and tenderness. In fact, God is spoken of as having a breast, feeding a newborn baby, or a womb, giving birth. So this means that no male by himself is a full representation of the full spectrum of God, the image of God. This means that no woman by herself is a full representation of the full spectrum of God. It's only as male and female, created by God, come back, the two complementary halves of humanity come back together, they together form the full spectrum of the image of God.
I just think it's so weird. Like, look at these logos or whatever, these icons or whatever. There's a woman breastfeeding. I'm so confused about why they are so dead set on viewing things this way, or why you give a fuck.
In fact, the image of God means, in part, God is a creator. And so he gives procreational power. And when a husband and wife comes together within the covenant of marriage, there is this holy representation of God on the planet Earth. Even the word El Shaddai, one of the names for God, speaks of this. El, mighty, strong like a mountain. Shaddai, breast that nourishes. Even the name of God depicts this very thing. The traditional view in Genesis 1 and 2 is that God took a rib out of Adam, the word is Selah in the Hebrew, and created woman. That sounds good in the English, but if you go to the Hebrew, it doesn't say quite that. In fact, many of your Bibles actually have footnotes that cover what it's actually saying, what I'm sharing now. The fact is, when God in Genesis 2:7 created humanity, he created Adam, not capital A Adam, he created Adam. He created humanity. And it's the only time God...
You know, like, the word Adam was actually a play on words at the time. It meant, Adam and Eve basically meant earth and earthling, effectively. It meant soil or dirt or whatever.
Looked at his own creation and said, that's not good. Every other time he said, it's good. But now he said, for some reason, it's not good. Why was it not good? Because he created Adam with no capacity for a relationship, because it's at one, the Hebrew even implies. And so, at that point, God takes Selah, that's half. It's used 40 times in the Old Testament. 39 times it's used translated side or half. Only once is it mistranslated rib in the Genesis account. The word is not rib, it's half or side.
Okay, well, no need to wonder. Just loaded up our question gun. Let's go answer hunting. He says the word rib actually means... Hang on. The word rib was mistranslated. Means half. That doesn't make any sense in context. So I seriously doubt it, but let's see. The Hebrew word Selah appears about 40 times in the Hebrew Bible, and Genesis 2:21-22 is the only place it gets translated as rib. Interesting. Okay. Everywhere else it means side, like the sides of the Ark of the Covenant, the sides of the tabernacle, the sides of the temple, etc. The argument's that God didn't take a small bone from Adam. He took an entire side of him, essentially splitting him in half. That's why Adam says, Eve is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, not just bone. And why Genesis 2:24 says, man and woman become one flesh again in marriage. Interesting. All right.
God created Adam, humanity. He said, that's not good. And so he removed Selah, that's the word in Hebrew, half or side. We jokingly refer to that as the splitting of the atom. And now we have
splitting of the atom. Ah, ha, 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 ha.
Man and woman. We have Ish and Isha. Now here's a 1-minute Hebrew lesson. If you look at the Hebrew words, you read from right to left. So Aleph, Yod, Shin. Ish, man. Woman, Aleph, Shin, Hey. Now you'll notice there's one letter in the top line that's not in the second. That's Yod. Think of the letter Y. There's one letter in the bottom line that's not in the top. What is that? That is Hey. Think of the letter H. So a YH essentially. Let's see what happens and how significant those two are. If we take those letters out, the two letters that are left, Aleph and Shin, are the same on the top and the bottom. Let's just take...
You know Bro, what the hell happened? That was weird. You know the original word woman basically means weaving man who weaves clothing. That's kind of crazy, right?
Take that Yod out for a second, and let's take the Hey out from Isha for a moment. Now we have Yod Hey. What is that? You read Hebrew from right to left. Yod Hey is the rudimentary letters of Yahweh. Yod Hey, Vav Hey. Yod Hey, man and woman unite. This means...
Wait, I'm sorry. Is he giving us Bible code right now? Did he just pull a letter from one word and another letter from a different word and combine them into a completely different set of words or letters or whatever that form out God's name? I feel like that's what he just did. Also, just a second. There we are.
That when man and woman come together in the holy covenant of marriage, they reflect the full spectrum of the image of God, the Imago Dei. Two men don't do that. Two women don't do that. It's as a man and a woman.
Bad news for you, buddy. Two men and or two women do, in fact, do that. It is some Bible code nonsense. Yes, that's what I'm picking up.
Come together, Yod Hey, the basis of the Tetragrammaton, a work that appears in your Bible 6,800 times, referring to God himself. The name of God is stamped upon the covenant of marriage.
That's complete nonsense. That is not how language works.
And so let's go further. We removed Yod and Hey out. We had two letters left. What were they? Aleph, Shin, reading from right to left. What is Aleph, Shin? It's fire. Is fire good or bad? Well, if it's uncontrolled, it's horrible. If it's controlled, it warms our home, it lights our home, cooks our meals, it runs our cars. It's running this PowerPoint right now. It's getting the air conditioning and the heating that we need from day to day. So it's good if it's contained. This fire represented the covenant.
Bro, I am so fucking confused by what he's arguing right now.
Covenant of marriage is the passion God put. A man for a woman and a woman for a man. Part of the reason for the sexual attraction, a healthy reason for the sexual attraction, is the desires of the complementary halves of humanity to come back together to be a full reflection of the image of God, the full image of God. Now let's take this word fire and look what happens in the context of marriage. Outside of marriage, uncontrolled lust is destructive. It harms many.
How does it harm anybody for two people to get together and do stuff? I don't understand. Please connect these dots for me. I'm begging you. What is bad about two people doing things?
In the context of covenant, there's that word again.
Oh, this is Coot and Ginny. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming. Glad you're here. I was talking about the book of Zohar earlier, and I mentioned you.
It is powerful, beautiful, and the physical intimacy of a husband and wife is a righteous and godly act. Within covenant, berit, there's that word that keeps showing up. The word for covenant is a sacred agreement between God and humanity. It's a sacred agreement between a husband and wife. Berit. Now let's put the other word together. Remember, if we remove yod from man, hey.
Yeah, this is straight up Bible code shit. That's what he's laying down for us right now. This is Bible code garbage. Taking a letter from one word and sticking it together with a letter from another word. And middle, you end up with God's name.
From woman, we have aleph shin. What's that word I said? Fire. Let's take a look at the word berit, covenant, and esh for fire. Let's take the very end of the word berit. Let's take the beginning of the word for berit, right to left, remember. Now let's take that fire, that passion we talked about, a man for a woman for a man, but put it in the context of the covenant. Now we have a new word. What is that new word? That new word is bereshit. What is that? It translates in the beginning. It's Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 of your Bible. The Jews don't call Genesis Genesis. They call Genesis bereshit, based upon the first Hebrew word, which translates in the beginning. Three Jewish rabbis taught me what I'm now sharing with you. The one who taught me this said these words to me, Jim, marriage is so sacred and so holy that even in the first word of the Bible, tucked in that word is the profound message of the passionate attraction of a male and female for each other to try to want to complete what God split apart in the splitting of the Adam, and surrounded with the covenantal.
Dude, these people are so full of shit.
Aspects of berit. Then this becomes a holy and righteous nature. This is the holiness and sacredness of marriage. Bereshit, the first book in your Bible. And there we have it with the fire within the context of covenant, makes for godly, beautiful marriage. But Satan wants to destroy that. He wants to destroy on the planet the image of God. So,
all right, well, you know what? If you just didn't want people in your church to get gay married, I might be able to just deal with that. But you're trying to impose it on everybody around you. You're trying to force other people to live the way that you want to live. I don't give a fuck how you want to live, but don't push it on me.
With divorce, homosexuality, transgender, abuse, pornography, adultery, fornication, abortion, and a lot of other things, Satan tries to destroy the imago Dei, the image of God on planet Earth. We go from Genesis, we jump all the way to Revelation. What is the culmination of all of history? History is going towards one event. That one event is the marriage supper of the Lamb. It's going to close with a big wedding. The Bible started with a marriage. It's going to end with an enormous marriage. This marriage is Jesus and the ecclesia. What is the ecclesia? The people of God, the true people of God. And the definition of the word is the people of God called with legislative authority. You are in this auditorium as the ecclesia, exercising your legislative authority through prayer, through fasting, and through declaration of his word.
So basically what he's saying is you have a divine right to rule the United States that, say, I don't have, as somebody who is not a Christian nationalist or who is an atheist or whatever. You uniquely have that right, and I do not. These people are fucking psychotic.
On planet Earth, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You're exercising legislative authority. All of history is going towards one event. God only has one kid, so who marries his kid, he's going to care about a lot. The ecclesia, the people of God.
Who marries his kid, he's going to care about a lot.
But you and I can't comprehend Jesus and the people of God being married. We can't grasp that. And so God put on earth small m marriage to help us understand.
You know, I mean, not for nothing, but it seems to me that this guy marrying Jesus, it feels like that's a gay marriage, right? Am I wrong there? A man and a man get married, this man and Jesus?
We tend to think that God looked on the earth, borrowed the metaphor of marriage, and used it for a closeout of history. We have it exactly the opposite. Capital M marriage you have not seen yet. Capital M marriage is what is yet to come. What you have on earth is small m marriage. Think of the best marriage you know. I hope it's your own. And think of that marriage. Your marriage is to be a representation of the closure of all history because we have a hard time grasping how did Jesus and the people of God come together in marriage. And so Paul understood this, and he wrote in Ephesians 5, husband and wife, husband and wife, husband and wife. And then he said, love, you'll become one. And then he said it's a profound mystery, but he said, wait a minute, I'm not talking about husband and wife. I'm talking about Jesus and the ecclesia. Ephesians chapter 5.
You got to distrust everything out of these people's mouths. They lie for a living, so just be very skeptical.
He's aware this is a profound mystery to us. We can't comprehend it. So one of the reasons God put marriage on earth was so we would not only see the full imago Dei, the image of God from Genesis, but we would see the closure of all of history.
Do you know that marriage did not exist in its current form in Jesus' time even, let alone the Old Testament? Back then, marriage was a business transaction where you were purchasing a woman's reproductive capacity and virginity. You were purchasing that, and it was a trade. You were giving things to the family for ownership of her. And it wasn't like the man was bound to her permanently and wasn't allowed to cheat or whatever. It wasn't really viewed as cheating if men stepped out and got additional property or whatever. That's why David had like 800 wives, for example. Women were not allowed to sleep around, but men didn't really have much of a bar on that. Not like women.
From the book of Revelation. I've written 2 books on heaven. And so people say to me, why is there no marriage in heaven? Well, the fact is, heaven is marriage. That's what the whole thing is about. It's a grand marriage. It's the culmination.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Kat Kerr. Here, right here. Kat Kerr explains what it's going to be like.
Of his love is so great, I don't even remember what I was going to say to him. So don't make your list. You won't care. Because you are in love with Jesus Christ. He is your bridegroom, whether you're male or female. Oh my.
That sounds like gay marriage to me.
So the women in the spirit can be spiritual kings. He is King of kings, female kings, and male kings. Lord of lords, male lords, female lords. We are priests unto our God, male and female. There's only one wedding in heaven.
Oops, I hit the wrong button, sorry.
Inside the Father.
But the point is that Kat Kerr thinks that when you get to heaven, you're going to sleep with Jesus, basically. Hold on. Where was I? 21:31. 21:31. Let's watch for a few more minutes, see what else they got going on.
God in Genesis destroyed the picture of the culmination of history of saying death. Heaven is marriage. That's what the whole thing is about. It's a grand marriage. It's the culmination. And people say, well, there's no marriage in heaven. I don't want to be indelicate, but let me just say it this way. The act of physical intimacy is marriage. The act of physical intimacy in marriage is a picture of the ecstasy and the joy and delight of being in the presence of Jesus. That's the meaning of Psalm 16.
So he's saying that there is going to be sex in heaven, basically. You are going to consummate the marriage with Jesus in heaven. And that sleeping with your spouse is basically a microcosm of sleeping with Jesus. Is that what he's saying? I feel like that's what he's trying to communicate here.
11, at your right hand are pleasures forevermore. I've interviewed a lot of people, near-death experiences. They've crossed over and they come back.
No, that doesn't happen, first of all. But second, is he saying he intends to pleasure Jesus like a young man should?
They reported the ecstasy, the joy, The glory. Nobody who crossed over wanted to come back. And not a one of them had fear of death after that point. Because they longed to be completed with Jesus and the people of God coming together. But along comes Satan. He wants to destroy the image of God in Genesis, destroy the picture of the culmination of history, of heaven itself, in the book of Revelation. What happened in Genesis 1? In Genesis 1, God makes gender specificity, male and female. By Genesis 2, we have one flesh marriage. By Genesis 4, we have procreation. Babies being produced. Now, it's the opposite. Satan comes to attack in reverse order. Attack the babies that are being born through abortion, redefine marriage next, and destroy gender specificity. That's specifically what Satan has done in our culture.
Oh my God, a big picture of Joe Biden. Okay, fine. You know what? You want to believe that? Whatever. I couldn't possibly give less of a shit. I don't give a fuck, but you can't stop me from doing what I want to do. I don't understand where these people come from with all of this ridiculous nonsense, how they're constantly trying to control everybody around them and impose their will on you.
December the 13th, 2022, is when the president, at that time Joe Biden, did this to our White House. 3 days of infamy. Judicial, destroyed marriage in 2015. Legislative, in December of 2022.
Wait, I'm sorry. Judicial, Joe Biden destroyed marriage judicially? The thing is, if you want to use your understanding of marriage to marry people in your church, that's fine. I don't care. You're trying to impose it on me now. Seriously, these people are obsessed with controlling everybody around them. This is none of your fucking business, okay? I don't even think that the state should be involved in marriages. I get for some purposes it should be involved, like for health insurance, I guess, although health insurance shouldn't even exist for that matter. But it should be the kind of thing where you can switch off every 6 months if you want, and you just alert the U.S. government every 6 months or whatever about who you're with. Marriage should be... Why is the government involved in my relationship? I don't understand. And also, I don't care, like, I'm not poly. I'm very monogamous, but why is it the state's business whether multiple people can get married? I don't understand why this matters.
Every Democrat and 12 Republicans voted in the Senate to destroy marriage. In the House, every Democrat and 39 Republicans in the final vote.
They didn't destroy marriage. Okay? God, these people are insane. Let me check through this because I did an analysis on this. Let's see what it came up with here. Some of the most psychotic stuff. What do we got? This is at 2320. So apparently in this section, he talks about, for the first time in American history, all three branches of government now are supporting that for which God has destroyed Sodom, dehumanizing comparison of LGBT people and same-sex marriage to Sodom. Allowed feminism to damage marriage, and I partnered with the enemy to destroy the beautiful family dynamic you designed. Jesus Christ, these people are insane.
To destroy marriage. And finally, on December the 13th, 2022, I've watched the news almost every day of my life since age 9. It's the first time I turned the television off. I could not talk. I couldn't stand the pain I was watching as the president in the White House that day, Joe Biden at that time, signed into law, meaning that for the first time in American history, all three branches of government now are supporting that for which God had destroyed Sodom.
He acts like the U.S. government is his church or something, and he's unhappy with his church's pastor, which is Joe Biden. Like, I don't understand how these people can't get it through their thick skulls that he's a president, not a pastor, and people should live their lives the way that they see fit to live their lives, and that you should leave me alone. The president is not a pastor. My God, dude. These people are psychotic. I may actually cover more of this. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. These people seriously need help. They are disturbing as shit. That they have as much power as they do blows me away. Anyway, all right, I'm getting out of here. I appreciate you guys hanging out. It's been fun. I will see you guys on the flippity flip tomorrow, okay?